daily outrages against civilized norms are having a corrosive effect. How stunning and how horrible that Trump could not bring himself to shake the hand of a small boy who only wanted to touch the president. So Chelsea Clinton retweeted this fake news, which I will debunk for you in just a second, to the almost 2 million morons who follow her on Twitter, thus further spreading it across social media. First of all, here's the president when he first came out to give his remarks, and you can see one of the first things he did was greet the small child. Right there, talking with him. Having him look like a whole conversation. Then he came over, says hello to some of the other kids, and then, see, look, shaking the other boy's hands. Then he takes the podium.
Well, thank you very much.
So what happened here is the anti-Trump idiots on the internet, again, took an isolated clip and totally misrepresented what was happening and started spreading it around the internet at the very end of the president's speech when he is greeting some of the families again. You can see the little boy here isn't trying to shake the president's hand. The boy has a little Secret Service patch that was given to him, and he's showing it to the president. Hey, look at what I got. Look what I got. So not only did the president greet the boy, which was the first thing that he did when he came out onto the stage, but the little boy wasn't even trying to shake his hand. He was just showing the president his new Secret Service patch. You can see it right here in his hand. He's just showing him what he's got. Oh, it gets even better. The boy's mother then took to Facebook and wrote, if someone can please get a message to J.K. Rowling. Trump didn't snub my son, and Monty wasn't even trying to shake his hand. 1, he's 3, and handshaking is not his thing. And 2, he was showing off his newly acquired Secret Service patch. Thanks. Surprisingly, Piers Morgan, who I think hopefully has left the United States and went back to England, has been calling out the insanity of the left and called out J.K. Rowling being a fellow Brit and called out Chelsea Clinton. And then Chelsea Clinton deleted the retweet and issued this insane apology. Hello, Piers. I hadn't seen the full video until now. I removed the retweet. And the president should have shaken the boy's hand at the end. What the hell kind of an apology is that? This creature, Chelsea, who has a dog's name, by the way, is just like her evil mother in that she can't even apologize when she does something ridiculously wrong. After the pig demon Rosie O'Donnell started bullying Trump's young 10-year-old son, Barron, Chelsea appeared to come to his aid and made headlines for supposedly defending him when she said, Barron Trump deserves the chance every child does, to be a kid. Standing up for a kid also means opposing the president's policies that hurt kids. What the hell kind of defense is that? You're using the president's kid to attack the president, you despicable donkey. What else can we expect from a creature that was birthed by Hillary Clinton, I guess? I'm Mark Dice. Thanks for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's August 1st, 2017. Roger Stone has a headline on Infowars.com, an article by Paul Joseph Watson. Seth Rich was partying with Imran Awan on the night of his murder. Trump confidant claims link between DNC staffer death and disgraced Wasserman Schultz aide. Now, remember, it was Roger Stone last Tuesday that broke the fact that Priebus was definitely out by the end of the week and that General Kelly was in the front running to be that chief of staff. I also talked to Stone on and off air last week, and he said, I don't think Scaramucci is going to survive these tirades with these reporters. And of course, now we know that he was baited by fake emails, spoofing reporters' emails to manipulate him into that. Folks have to understand the dirty tricks we're dealing with. Separately, so the top story on CNN right now, the black detective from New York who was originally hired by the family and who I did see on Fox News talk about some of the suspicions he had, is now saying that was edited deceptively, and he sued News Corp, Fox News. Lawsuit claims Fox News and Trump supporter created fake story about killing of DNC staffer Seth Rich. You know what's funny is we're going to go back to the clips of him where it looks like he's pretty clear about what he's saying. But regardless, now he's claiming that it's tied to some Republican donor and to Trump and the rest of this, and a lot of people are changing their stories. But you're not even supposed to question a guy shot multiple times in the back, and it's the most hateful thing you can do, according to CNN, MSNBC, the Democratic Party, when it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz on video threatening the Capitol Police that if they keep investigating, you're not going to like what happens. That clip's coming up here in just a moment. We've got Roger Stone on the line via Skype. But I don't know what happened with Seth Rich, but I know it deserves to be investigated, and that's not an evil thing. That's not a bad thing. And you've got the whole Democratic Party not letting Homeland Security in over a 2-year period into their computers. And you've got all these foreign nationals involved with the highest level security clearances and who also don't have security clearances interfacing. Something's going on here. And I saw the family at first in the news saying our son was shot, this needs to be investigated. I saw them on television. I read their quotes. And then a week or so later, the Democratic Party top crisis manager, bills himself as the top guy, is in there managing it, saying it's insane to question anything, move along, in national television going, some young kid gets shot and it's a big national news story, move along. But then WikiLeaks said, we don't give away our sources, but yes, we're basically saying Seth Rich was our source. So it's highly suspicious. But this is how they changed the subject off of the WikiLeaks, off of the DNC emails, off of what's in them. They're not denying those are real emails about rigging debates, rigging polls, intimidating people, sending people to Trump rallies to get women beat up, to blame Trump, on and on and on. They just keep changing the subject. Where you hate the family of Seth Rich, if you even talk about it. I have nothing against the family of Seth Rich. But if we're questioning the Democratic Party, a bunch of known liars, that is the default position. And they act like something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Let's play the Debbie Wasserman Schultz clip of her just a month ago threatening the D.C. police concerning these brothers, these Pakistani brothers, with the highest level clearances by the Democrats when the feds couldn't even get into their computers, getting paid 3 times what they were supposed to, and this, and then all these laptops and things disappearing, and then the DNC threatening the D.C. police, give us these laptops or you're really gonna regret what happens. Here it is.
It is not. Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that, working through my counsel and the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission of through the investigation, then we'll return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences.
And that's the lady over his paycheck who in her position controls the Democratic Party, who controls D.C., directly saying you better basically stop these investigations. Now let's go ahead and go to a clip of Colonel Schaefer talking about these brothers last week on Fox News. Here it is.
So that's why the Capitol Hill police rolled in saying there's something wrong here. And now the FBI has rolled in. And let me give you the big takeaway here. It looks like a foreign intelligence service may be the recipient of all this, and something called the Muslim Brotherhood.
So, whoa. The Muslim Brotherhood?
Brotherhood.
Oh, they're going to really say it's conspiracy theory
really
now.
Conspiracy now, but that's where apparently all this has been going in law enforcement. That's why the FBI is now investigating beyond the wire.
These brothers have been kicking around Capitol Hill in various capacities for IT, but they essentially were blacklisted by most of the other Democrats, correct?
Right.
But yet she gave them a home.
She gave them a home.
Interesting.
And they actually suspended most of their access in February of this year, and she kept them on anyway. So
she's just a very nice person. Apparently it's a jobs program over there at the DNC.
$300,000 being kicked over to Pakistan finally was the straw that broke the camel's back.
But his wife is gone. She's safely over there in Pakistan. Lieutenant, keep covering it for us. Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer, thank you so much.
Now joining us from Los Angeles, California, is Roger Stone via Skype to break this down. His new story that he's quoted in at Infowars.com from his D.C. sources that we are investigating. Reportedly has Seth Rich at the Democrat Party with these same individuals the night he dies. And all we're saying is one of these brothers is caught trying to flee the country at the airport. You got all this swirling around it. The feds wanted to investigate what was happening inside of the DNC computers. They wouldn't let them more than 20 times. This deserves to be investigated. Roger Stone.
Alex, great to be with you and welcome back. It's really extraordinary because not only does Deborah Wasserman Schultz, who happens to be my congresswoman, the district that I live in Florida, threaten the Capitol Hill police chief over the seizure of evidence from her office. But after she is well aware that the investigation has been launched, she changes the classification of the Awan brothers from consultant to House of Representative employees to ensure that they continue to have access to the House of Representatives computer system. This seems to me to be, a crime. This is part of an ongoing conspiracy, and now she's a co-conspirator. And I think this is, while being ignored by the mainstream media as very best they can, not making the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel. This is a cover-up of extraordinary magnitude. And as it relates to the Seth Rich murder, I agree with you. Mr. Rich headed a division of the Democratic National Committee from which documents were clearly stolen. We now know from William Binney and Ray McGovern and others in an extraordinary piece published last week that the evidence shows that the documents were never hacked but were downloaded to thumb drives and removed from the DNC. So the entire question of hacking of the DNC by the Russians, that's false. Guccifer 2.0, that now appears to be false, is falling apart, and the Democrats are desperate to distract from the connection between the Awan brothers and the now more than 30 members of Congress that gave access to their computer systems to these two Pakistanis who, by the way, Alex, seem to have scant IT experience, raising the question of maybe this perhaps was a Pakistani or governmental operation and the Awans were just fronting. Key point. No member of Congress will step forward to testify against the brothers. None of them will go public, including Deborah Wasserman Schultz. Is this a blackmail operation, or are we not criticizing because it's politically incorrect?
Let's expand on that. If you go back to 9/11, it was in major newspapers at the time that the FBI said it's as if Al-Qaeda had people at the top of the FBI. Well, we know with people like the man heading up the witch hunt right now, Mueller, he has major contacts with the Democratic Party. His law firm gives 99.8% of their money to the Democrats. They get massive money from the Saudis, the Pakistanis. He's the guy that had the FBI in his 10-year tenure take radical Islam off of the list of terror groups when they are responsible for 99% of terror. And then we ask, why is the Muslim Brotherhood being backed in the Arab Spring? Why is Al-Qaeda and ISIS being backed? Why? Why is Hillary staying in the same bed as Umma Abedin and her Islamic family? Why is a Islamic woman leading the feminist movement now in the country, teaching women to wear burqas? Why is USA Today saying wear burqas if you're a feminist? Why is it everywhere? Why is everything Islamified? Why, when I tune into Trevor Noah or John Oliver, or anybody that's attacking me, they say Jones is scum. He claims Muslims are involved in crime and that Muslims are unvetted and that some Muslims have diseases, when it's a fact that they're pouring in with TB. It's a fact they're pouring in with crime. Just look at Europe. This is the untouchable God group, and it looks like they just infiltrated our wide-open government. I mean, the owner of Chobani Yogurt, he's on the New York Federal Reserve Board that runs our country. It's more powerful than President Trump. that's check-making Trump with all of these interest rate hikes, battling him. This is just absolutely incredible how infiltrated we really are and how it just gets worse and worse. And now school lunches, not just here but in Europe, are saying no pork served in the schools because of the Muslims. I mean, they are God.
Well, Alex, they're attacking you because you've been very effective about raising this issue in the consciousness of the American people. I know they want to cut Infowars.com off. I know they want to limit our reach to the American people, but they're not going to be successful. And they're attacking you relentlessly because you have raised the profile of this very important issue. I want to address also the question of Anthony Scaramucci, which you raised in the opening here, because I think it's most important. Turns out that Scaramucci is a political suicide bomber. Yes, he may have blown himself up, but he took out 2 rhino whistling moles in the Trump White House, those being Reince Priebus and Sean Spicer. I have now determined, absolutely positive, that Rod Rosenstein, the number 2 man at the Justice Department, the man who on his own volition decided to appoint the Lord High Executioner Robert Mueller as a special counsel to investigate a matter in which there is no evidence of crime, the Russian collusion delusion, that Mr. Priebus is the one who directed the hiring of Mr. Rosenstein, and he did so on the recommendation of Congressman Elijah Cummings,
wow,
Democrat of Baltimore. He has saddled the president with an ass in the bosom, with an assassin who will cook up any kind of phony allegation against our president in an attempt to remove it.
And now we know why Cummings is always running around slobbering and drooling over Rosenstein, and why he's been on the news saying who he would accept as a new FBI director and who he wouldn't, because he's been burrowed into this whole thing when he's one of the most politically discredited, corrupt, partisan manipulators out there.
And if you will look carefully at Mr. Cummings' filings with the Federal Election Commission from his re-election campaign, you will see that he's violating the law, essentially living off of his campaign committee and being reimbursed handsomely for travel expenses in a completely illegal and improper way. Let me put it another way. If Mr. Cummings were a Hispanic Republican, he would be in jail right now. We've seen the same thing with Maxine Waters, where she pressures the government to bail out a bank without disclosing that she and her husband own shares of that bank, that her husband is on the board of directors of the bank. Again, if she were a Hispanic Republican, she would be in prison right now.
And let's talk about Wasserman Schultz, though. White women also seem to have this, like Hillary, this invincibility card because they can play the gender. I mean, look at Wasserman Schultz and how she's involved with the DNC controlling the District of Columbia and threatening the police with their funding if they keep investigating the computers and don't hand stuff over. I mean, this group of people is lawless, and Maxine Waters, according to the FBI and others, is the most corrupt member of Congress who's never been prosecuted.
Fortunately, Owen Schroyer was the first to identify the candidacy of Omar Navarro, a hard-charging young reformer who is going to make history in that district. I was with Omar last night. I went there voluntarily to help in a fundraiser. We raised about $25,000, which is small potatoes compared to what Maxine Waters has, but there's a sea change coming. Watch this campaign and this district very, very carefully, Alex. Final point, and this needs to be made. My sources at Fox and my sources in the White House tell me that the lawsuit filed by the black private investigator, former D.C. police officer, is completely and totally bogus. This man's changed his tune so many times, it's hard to keep up with the truth. He is the one who said that the D.C. police destroyed the computer or lost the computer of Seth Rich. He is the one who said there was a cover-up. Now he's saying he never said those things. I expect this lawsuit to be dismissed summarily.
Well, certainly it looks like perfect PR for the Democrats right now, whoever's behind this, to kind of smokescreen the larger issues as more comes out about the murder shot in the back of Seth Rich that we're not going to shut up about. Thanks, Roger Stone. Roger's now officially with InfoWars. Infowars.com is the most hated news site by global tyrants in the world. Keep spreading it. They hate it.
It is not, under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that, you know, working through my counsel and you know, the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission of through the investigation, then we'll return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences.
Here's the headline: Wasserman Schultz under pressure to testify on ex-IT aide complaint filed. We've now got filings in Congress by members of Congress calling for larger hearings on criminal activity by Obama, Hillary, Bill Clinton, James Comey. The list goes on and on. This is a headline out of Fox News. Wasserman Schultz under pressure to testify on ex-IT aide complaint filed. Democratic Rep. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is coming under mounting pressure to explain why she kept an IT aide on the payroll for months after a criminal investigation was revealed, facing calls from Republicans to testify, as well as a newly filed ethics complaint. And now, of course, they've caught one of those aides trying to flee the country. This on top of them finding laptops shoved in behind some books in a crevice. And the Capitol Police investigated, and it's the master files for the DNC. And, of course, we know who was in control of that. His name's Seth Rich. He got gunned down, shot in the back. That's an unsolved murder. But now in America, that's called being a conspiracy theorist. They have headlines out there that I'm hatefully attacking the family, and so is Sean Hannity, for even questioning this. Now, it's almost like we killed Seth Rich. It's like questioning Sandy Hook when they lied about babies in incubators and their brains bashed out, and so many other fake events that my listeners questioned Sandy Hook. We questioned it, and now it's all over the news every day. He's the one that hates the children at Sandy Hook. He's the one that hates the families. He's the one. And the few mental patients that come up to me on the street, they go, how dare you not care about those kids? They don't care about the million dead Iraqis from sanctions. They don't care about all the other lies, the Arab Spring, the hundreds of thousands of dead Christians funded and supported by Obama and Hillary. They don't care about Libya, the failed state. They don't care about the civil war started by our government in Ukraine. They don't care about the tens of millions of aborted babies. They don't care about babies kept alive and their body parts sold, according to the Associated Press. They keep them alive till they harvest their organs. They get them out of mama in a partial birth, keep the baby alive, harvest it. They don't care about that. They morally get upset when CNN tells them to. Of course we're questioning, and we're going to go on questioning until we get to the bottom of all of these events. But she's the Democrat rep over funding of D.C. And she's in there telling the police that you're going to pay. The full clip, she threatens them. It goes on and on. We've played the clip many times. If they don't hand over these laptops that are already the subject of a criminal investigation, these brothers that are under criminal investigation, you've got a murder in the middle of this, and she's telling the police, you better watch it. And they're telling all of us, you better watch what you say. You better watch what you do. You better keep your mouth shut, or we're going to come after you. You drop Seth Rich, and you drop these brothers, and you drop Pakistan, and you keep your mouth shut. And we know Our government has been completely penetrated by any foreign government, any intelligence group, any private corporation that wants to get in there. It's called a free-for-all. We got us a rock and roll band. It's a free-for-all. We ought to go out playing a minute or so of Ted Nugent's free-for-all. But this isn't a fun free-for-all. We were having fun with a rock concert, so the girls are dancing around. This is a free-for-all with the communist Chinese, the Russians to a very lesser extent. I'm not defending the Russians. It's a fact. I mean, the Democrats had this country's legs up behind its ears for anybody that wanted to come in to have their way with it. And then they just point at the Russians because they've stumbled through the gang rape occasionally. The Chinese basically run this country. The Chinese communists. Then you got the EU bureaucrats, the big mega banks that have allied with China. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan openly admitting they have. You've got the Vatican and all its mega banking power that dwarfs Russia. Of course, it doesn't really want any part of the gang rape. It likes little kids, if you like that allegory. All of this is going on. And Hollywood is here in its America-hating garbage, attacking our families, attacking our values, attacking Christians. I mean, it is just a free-for-all of mercenaries, criminals, pedophiles, radical Islamicists infiltrating every facet of our government. Saudi princes buying up News Corps. The Communist Chinese buying up controlling interests in all 6 major production companies, major studios in California. I remember like 6, 7 years ago, I said the Arabs are buying control of Hollywood. I didn't say they own the whole thing. I said they're trying to buy it up. And it was a big joke on the internet. Oh, yeah, everybody knows, you know, who owns Hollywood. I was out in Hollywood, and folks were pointing out to me that the studios were being bought up by China and by Islamic groups. And now that's all over the news 7, 8 years ago. I was just telling you what was being reported to me by people at the highest levels. But it's Hollywood and the globalists allied with communist China. It's like Lloyd Blankfein a month and a half ago during Infrastructure Week, when Trump was trying to focus on our infrastructure, how it's going from first world to third world very, very quickly. And he said, oh, I just got back from China. Incredible. Best infrastructure ever. Boy, they know how to do it. We're moving our investments there. They're the place. Trump. Ha ha, you're pathetic. How's your infrastructure week going? Taunting the president, betting against America, celebrating communist China's ascension. The Dragon's Century, built on slave labor, built on Foxconn slavery, built on Walmart slave goods and Amazon slave goods and Apple iPhone slave goods. But it's okay that Apple has the worst slave factories with their contractor, with suicide nets in the stairwells and roofs, and forced abortions and 18-hour workdays. It's okay because it's liberal. And as long as you're liberal, CNN, MSNBC, Trevor Noah, John Oliver, the anointed screenwriters, teleprompter readers. I mean, you realize that Stephen Colbert and John Oliver and all these people aren't real. They're little facsimiles that make certain hand gestures and certain facial gestures. They play a laugh track. They're so cheap, there aren't even real studio audiences most of the time. And when they are, they tell them when to applause with big signs that say applause, with a person out there telling them raise their hands up. I've been on these shows. They bring in the studio audience of the types of folks that want to go to New York and LA and go see a live mainstream show. I mean, that might have been cool 30 years ago. It's super uncool. And you're sitting there looking at the people they bring in. A lot of them are homeless if they can't fill the bleachers. So you got some homeless guy who's drunk a fifth of scotch up there sitting in his own feces. Seriously. I've seen him remove homeless people that are crapping too much or urinating too much on the steps, on the bleachers. And they're in there like 50, 100 people, and they have big signs that say applause, but people won't applause when those are going, so they'll have some trendy out there with their hands going, come on, waving, come on, applause, applause. But more and more, they don't trust even those audiences, so they just have a laugh track going. And then they call us fake. Guys that read off teleprompters that 10, 20, 30, 40 writers. Some of these shows, like The Late Show, have over 100 writers. And they sit there poring over every single thing I do and I say to then twist it and to lie and to attack. Why? Because they know we've got their number. And they're so scared that we're going to break the news as it comes out that's going to put them to the bottom of the ocean politically. Because we've already torpedoed Hillary. And we've already torpedoed Obama. We've already torpedoed their carbon tax. We've already torpedoed their open borders. We've already torpedoed much of their operation thanks to you. And so they're in full panic mode and want to brand InfoWars as the scourge of the earth. So as soon as somebody sees something from InfoWars, they just don't even look at it out of hand. But that doesn't work because they're the scourge. And so the free-minded, open-minded, libertarian, patriot type, not even conservative or liberal, just pro-prosperity, pro-common sense, pro-Americana, you know, not North Korea-kana, not Venezuela-kana, not Soviet-kana, not fascist-kana, prosperity-kana, common sense-kana, don't want to blow your brains out-kana, enjoy life-kana, have a great outlook-kana, but no, we got to deal with the crisis of tyranny-kana, of mental illness-kana, of sabotage-kana. Because we want freedom-kana, self-defense-kana. But we produced the byproduct of a bunch of spoiled, rotten people running around doing whatever they want, bitching and complaining, because folks that really work hard have got so much success. And the ultra-rich know that the giant unwashed mass thinks the guy that has $100 more than them is rich. So they teach them you get ahead by pulling down the middle class when that's actually the stairway for them into success. But you dynamite that, well, now you've got an elite that always consolidates control over the mass. And I know you know that, but that's the big issue. That's the big key. That's the big secret of the social class warfare that they're cranking up. I mean, just look at this. Marie Claire Ryder whines, Dunkirk movie, an excuse for men to celebrate maleness. I haven't gone and seen this movie yet because I've read books about Dunkirk, watched, you know, PBS shows about it. I know all about it. Here's the 60-second boil down. The Nazis go into Czechoslovakia, they go into Austria, they go into these other areas. They think that they're invincible. So they go ahead then and go into France. The French military completely gives up because they'd already been paid off beforehand to stand down. That's why they set up a dictatorship called the Vichy French out of the south of France, out of Vichy. +400,000 person force of Brits gets driven to the sea at Dunkirk. There's no evacuation force because they don't have a big enough British Navy to even be able to dock there. And for weeks, the Luftwaffe sits there and bombs them on the beach and strafes them and kills them. So a flotilla of citizens, free market, takes action and goes and saves them. Now, of course, 99% of the people were white. Maybe 1% was India. And so they've complained that there's no black people or no women because there weren't. It's like if you made a movie about the Roman Senate and Julius Caesar getting stabbed to death, there weren't any women stabbing him or any black guys stabbing him. Just like if you made a movie about some African tribe or some African king, it would be black people because, you know, black people are black, white people are white. Make a movie about Shogun or about Japanese samurais. Guess what? They're Japanese. But they write articles where I'm mentally ill, and they write them with a straight face. So it's called gaslighting. So someone reading it through peer pressure gives into the authority of the Salon article or the Mother Jones or the USA Today. Where it says, look at this hateful bigot. And then they quote me saying, I saw the Daily Mail article headline stating that a man had given birth to a baby for the first time, and I knew it would be a woman who thinks she's a man who'd had a baby. And then I read the article, and sure enough it was, because she was a woman, not a man. Men don't have babies. Males don't have babies in any major species. There are some fish and some other animals that in emergencies can flip sexes. They have both in there as an emergency backup. But not mammals. And that's just a fact. And they go, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's a nut. Now, you're hearing this thinking, well, that's mental illness. They know full well that it's a woman who thought she was a man. It's like if I self-identified as a rooster, or if I self-identified as a walrus, or I self-identified as Count Chocula, or if I self-identified as Bill Clinton. I'm not. I'm Alexander Jones from Texas, and I'm a man, and I got 4 children, and I got a wife. But see, in liberal land, they announced, I don't have my children, even though I have my children the majority of the time. And I have my 3-month-old baby all the time. Doesn't matter. They simulate I'm a failure. They simulate I've been destroyed. They simulate that we're no longer on the air. They simulate, just like with simulated friends on their Facebook, bots, they simulate victory. But Trump coming in kind of short-circuited that, because Hillary, I mean, Newsweek told us she was Madam President. She got elected. But see, I said that she didn't. But then when their great god of delusion, their matrix glitches out, they don't know what to do. Well, they responded by tripling down their howling and screaming and gnashing of teeth, but that's not going to work either. Coming up, we have an incredible clip of Fareed Zakaria, a member of the Bilderberg Group, flipping out over why Trump won and spewing a bunch of race-based garbage. So that's all coming up. We have Putin retaliating with his sanctions back against the United States that I got to say are very, very measured compared to all the economic sanctions that we've put Russia under. He just said, okay, you kicked out half our diplomats, we're kicking out half yours. And our media acted like that was another declaration of war. Russia is not in our business compared to any other major power, folks. Russia is promoting Christianity and free market politics and battling Orthodox Islam. That's why Hollywood and the globalists who are allied with radical Islam aren't against Russia, period. So that's all coming up. But back to the movie Dunkirk. Now they're whining, saying there's not enough women in it. And that's an excuse for men to celebrate maleness. See, now that they've created all this false narrative and false news and false reality, that false reality wants to demand territorially that nonfiction not exist. You understand? Every time in a culture people become delusional and mass mental illness starts spreading and the bedrock culture's removed that made the culture successful to begin with, the insanity always wages war with whatever's left that isn't insane. The allegory is of zombies. What do they not have? They don't have brains. They don't have consciousness. They don't have a soul. What do they want? Brains. All these are archetypes. And if something isn't accurate, it doesn't ring true to you. So that's why they do the same allegories over and over again in Hollywood. They've all written books on this. They weren't just doing this after Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. They understand the archetypes. I've never consciously manipulated archetypes. I flow with the basic archetypes, and so I present things archetypally because I'm a primitive. I'm going with my instincts. I'm going with my guts. I'm going with who I am, my essence, with truth. That's why they call me in Hollywood and CNN and everything now, not a big evil liar, but a master genius and a master manipulator with cunning powers they've never seen. I mean, now they're telling you what they really think about me. But it's not cunning powers they've never seen. Trump is not playing fifth-dimensional chess, I can tell you. He is literally assessing things with common sense analysis and then re-augmenting and changing when he thinks it needs to be done to try to make us prosperous. And it's grandiose, and sometimes it's a train wreck, but it's real. And that's why they hate us, because we're trying to create a prosperous economy. We're trying to turn the economy back on. We're trying to be positive, but also pointing out what's negative. By the way, they demonize us everywhere about the fact that we're funding ourselves. You know, if I sell $1 million of product, on average, half of that is the cost of the product. And it's hard to have close to 100 employees and all the crew and the IT staff and the licensing and everything else. But thanks to you, we're able to fund this operation. And that's why we're selling really high-quality products everybody needs. But tomorrow, the free shipping will end. I said August 1st it was going, but I just got back out of town. We got new specials coming up later in the week. But the free shipping that we ran through the month of July, it's now August 1st. Those will end tomorrow. It will end tomorrow. And we've got the biggest specials ever. That's just because people love specials. I just keep having bigger and bigger specials. 66% off colloidal silver. 50% off the Sleep Aid Knockout. 20% off Brain Force. 46% off Myco ZX. It's all got to end tomorrow anyways. I just talked to Tim Fruget, who's over that today, because a bunch of these are on the verge of selling out. Infowarstore.com, and you fund the operation while getting great products. Second hour straight ahead, big guests as well. Spread the word, be part of the rebellion. We're going to override their AI. We're winning. They know it. They're scared, and they should be. The number one thing we can do is lay out how serious the outcome of humanity taking a wrong turn could be. Just how high the stakes are. I want to lay that out in the next segment. It's also vital to go back and illustrate who's been in control of this global system and who those people are and what their worldview is. That's all coming up. We have Dr. Steve Pachenik joining us. A year ago, he said that Trump should bring in somebody like General Kelly if he got elected. I remember that. He's going to be joining us to break that down, give us inside intel. Dr. Corsi's got big news coming up. But first, it's important to document the crimes they've committed and keep reminding people they count on us having a short attention span. Here's John Bound's report.
Repeal and replace Obamacare. Repeal and replace. 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 And if you don't, and then if you don't, we're going to repeal them.
So that's John McCain saying repeal and replace, taking Trump's words away from him. And then as soon as he had a chance to shoot down the bill that was the best one we've seen yet, according to Senator Rand Paul, to save the economy, to save our healthcare system, Elizabeth Warren admitted it's designed to destroy healthcare as we know it and bring in a single payer, but with corporations that you have to pay. So it's even worse than socialism. It's like fascism, but under a socialist model. So he pledged, of course, to do that, and then he screwed you over.
But when McCain returned, he flashed a gasp-inducing thumbs down. Devastating McConnell, as Democrat Chuck Schumer shushed his elated troops.
It's not a time for celebration. It was a time of relief.
When did you know he was going to vote no?
I can tell you, John and I talked 4 or 5 times each day since he came back.
And the media is just creamy-eyed right now in a celebration of the, quote, defeat of Trump.
If I were a Republican operative, I would be feeling pretty low right now. What is your feeling?
Well, I certainly felt that way after last night. I mean, the sense of failure with the Senate effort to do something on health care, to keep the vehicle moving, was profound.
They're the monsters that created this legislation. They're the ones that are cowards and won't get rid of it. They're the ones that will be held responsible by the voters. The voters may be distracted, and some of them may be dumb. But even mainline Democrats seeing their health care go up And working families across this country know they've been lied to, and they know Trump didn't create Obamacare.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor. Period.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to get anything to pass.
So there's a lot of basic self-preservation going on out there. The main problem that MSM has and will continue to have over the years is that when they put out these fake polls, even when they don't show the methodology, when they do, you always see them adding 9, 15, 20 points or more. You can only lower polls so long. You can't just keep lowering, because nobody believes that Trump's got a 35% approval rating. And they know that there's elections coming up that'll prove their polls wrong. So now that it's still 3 years out, until Trump's facing full re-election, they're creeping back with the fake polls again. And it's just what they do. And we know from industry bots and the same numbers that any major company that subscribes to all these numbers can do. Why do you think CNN was having to add 15 points on to Hillary? Because he was 15, 20 points ahead. They wanted to show her ahead of him. So it's, again, who they call, who they poll, who they reach out to. So most of CNN polls are phone polls where you call CNN. In some polls, they oversample 34% more Democrat callers, but they put it in the methodology. Thank you for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. So much happening. I'm glad that Dr. Steve Pieczenik of StevePieczenik.com, co-author with Tom Clancy, many books, best-selling author in his own right, worked with major intelligence agencies, psychological operations, Delta Force, you name it, here to talk about the waterfront. This General Kelly appointment to Chief of Staff, he was calling for this back when Trump was candidate Trump, right after he got the nomination in July. So he's joining us to talk about that, to talk about the internal battles that are going on. We got some good news. Analysts, North Korean ICBMs lack effective re-entry to deliver payloads. So they could hit the United States, but evidence shows they cannot re-enter properly to deliver their payloads. The problem is soon they'll be able to do that, and they're trying to get sea-launched missiles from submarines now and threatening to attack the United States. That's the big problem. So will Trump be forced to move the next few weeks, the next few months? They've said all options are on the table. We'll get Dr. Steve Pieczenik's take on that as well. But first off, let me raise this with Dr. Steve Pieczenik. I know he's not a Russophile. In fact, he helped bring down the Soviet Union. But they're becoming more Christian, more free market. They're battling radical Islam. They've worked with the military against the Arab Spring that the traitors of the government, like Obama and Hillary, openly engaged in. So there's been an internal civil war for 6 years with our own military and patriots saying we're not going to go along with your Arab Spring. So when they say there's a Russian connection, it's there that we've worked with the Russians. We broke that 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Cy Hirsch came on last year, confirmed that we were right. We had general knowledge from a lot of sources in the government. We had Colonel Schaefer. We, of course, have had folks on like Tosh Plumlee. We've had folks involved, obviously, with Benghazi on. We've had Steve Pieczenik on, all documenting up front what really happened at Benghazi, what's happened since then. And so if you want to find Russian collusion, it's Russia working with, I guess, our patriotic deep state. So there's more than one deep state, obviously, to not actually merge with radical Islam and then double-cross the American people as the EU has done their own population. So that's the basics from my perspective. What comes in now is I see one of Trump's failures is he's being bullied by the media and by the other side of the deep state into new sanctions against Russia, into a military stance against Russia, into an acceleration of already bad blood into even worse to prove he's not in bed with the Russians. And the more he starts fights with the Russians, the more we get into a posture of aggression, the worse they bully the president, claiming these non-existent Russia ties. So I just don't like seeing the tail wag the dog here of Hollywood, MSM, the Democrats, the neocons, the rhinos, trying to destroy the good foreign policies I see out of Trump on other areas into making Russia public enemy number one. I don't know Dr. Pachenik's view on this. We'll get it right now. Doc?
The truth of the matter is, for some time, as you correctly stated, from the very beginning of the Trump nomination, I said the first things would have to go would be the political operatives. Corey Lewandowski's an excellent operative. He's still involved, although he had to leave. But the ones who are not excellent, or the ones who were thrown out, Spicer and Priebus. The reason for that is they're really not qualified to run a complex system. The reason General Kelly came in, and we had McMaster, we had Mattis, we have about 6, 7 generals now who are involved in the central command of the White House and other important agencies, including the CIA with Pompeo, is that they're used to efficiency, they're used to effectiveness. They know very well that Russia is not our enemy. Now, what is happening is you've got, again, the ineffectual Republican Party, which couldn't pass Obamacare or couldn't repeal it, couldn't do anything. They had only 7 years to learn about it. They had 7 years to be able to improve it, and they proved to be totally incompetent. Again, Ryan, McClain, McClellan, and our friend McCain. So what we have there is complete incompetency. Now, beneath that element of the so-called kabuki of politics is really what we concern the deep state, or what I call the honorable deep state. And they, in effect, are doing exactly what they were supposed to do and what I've been saying for a long time. Number one, we have had no discussion of the fact that Mattis and our generals in Iraq have been incredibly effective at taking down ISIS. The Russians know this. The Iranians have noticed this. What we have now is a problem that in 5 days we had a phased attack into Mosul, and it was incredibly effective. You had heard nothing, but nothing from the press about the phased victory in Mosul. The second part is that Iran had been our ally, and now they're beginning to turn against us. So once we went into Mosul and we effectively took down ISIS, then the Iranians are starting to fight with us. Now, this is a conundrum. This is not something I expect the politicians to understand. I don't expect Congress to understand it. I think for the most part, they're really ineffectual.
Sure. I mean, they don't understand that if you've got this battle of all these different armies together over this key area of this gateway to Europe, to be able to blackmail Europe and control the new pipelines and the rest of it, that as soon as we began to kick out the Saudi, Qatari, Wahhabist faction, that Iran that we've been allied with would obviously try to double cross and come into that vacuum. But we have a 5-year, 6-year deal. Assad needs to reportedly move towards an open election now. Iran needs to move out, and we need to move towards democratizing Syria, correct?
Right. Now, what's important, and you hit it on the head, Alex, and you're one of the few to discuss it. What's important now is that our forces are acting as a peacekeeping force in northern Syria. I've talked about it before. They're separating Erdogan's Turkish forces, who were our allies, as well as the Kurds, who did an incredible job. The YPG, primarily they're women fighters, and they were excellent.
Exactly. So if you have 5 factions, that's why I use the Hobbit analogy, 5 factions, they're going to want to pour back in. How long will we have to be there, though, for this to be stabilized?
Unfortunately, as I've said before, it's easier to create war. That was started by Bush Jr. and Cheney and the neocons. It's much harder to end a war. And I must give credit to our generals, all of them, Mattis, McMaster, Vodal, the head of special forces, because they are doing a yeoman's job, not in terms of kinetic killing, but in terms of negotiating and arbitrating peace treaties. And Rex Tillerson has done an excellent job in decreasing the size of the State Department. And in turn, because he was head of ExxonMobil, he knows all the Sunni and Shiite players. Now, to get something straight, what happened with Putin was, okay, Trump went along with these incompetent politicians in Congress who placed a misplaced sanction on the Russians. But the Russians are very clever, so is Trump. What Putin did, what we did not do, was to allow our businesses to withdraw from Russia. In other words, our major businesses in the gas and the oil and in Air Force and whatever other material that Putin needs are still going forth. And what really happened, Putin said, well, I'm going to withdraw 722 American staff members of our Russian embassy. Meanwhile, in Moscow, there was never a great embassy. I worked out of there. I never really used it. I worked in the field.
So Trump's having to do this for face saving, but the truth is there are certain global economic interests that want to be able to dictate who and can and can't go into Russia. And instead, the real way to continue to accelerate the reforms in Russia is to continue the free market connections with the West.
You had it right on the head, Alex. And what's happening is we're allowing the free markets to go in. So whatever sanctions we may have against a particular oligarch and all, that's part of the kabuki. The 722 people are really primarily Russian citizens who work in a non-secure area in the embassy. So this is all a kabuki. The reality is our intelligence, CIA, other intelligence units always work with the Russians, have always. Our military have always worked with the Russians because they have to. We're in Syria. It's a complicated situation. The Russians are very effective in what they do. Our military is very effective in what they do. And in turn, a general like Mattis, the Defense Department's def, says, look, we got a problem in Africa. And even Petraeus came forth and a lot of other generals who were involved saying, we can't give aid to every major leader of a dysfunctional country in Africa. So what Trump has allowed the military to do is not only to be in the kinetic part, which is a minor part, but to be in really the negotiation, the strategy, and the literal...
And they're having real strategy now. What do you make of the headlines that they're having debates about fully withdrawing from Afghanistan?
Well, I think it's important. From my point of view, that was a war that was started by a neocon by the name of Zalmay Khalilzad, who worked with me on the West Bank.
And it's totally the longest-running war in U.S. history.
Correct. But it was started by that CIA that wanted some kind of things to get involved. Afghanistan has no strategic value to us. It's really an extension of Pakistan and the ISI, or the Inter-Service Intelligence Agency. For us, the real issues that are important are going to be China, Russia, to get out of the Middle East and pivot to where we need to pivot, which is really to Southeast Asia and to the China Sea, as well as monitor.
Exactly, but the Chinese propagandists through our media really want to keep us in the Middle East.
That's correct. Now you hit it on the... I think you're the best strategist. You hit it right on the head.
Oh, no, I can see the strategy, and I can see Trump on every front following strategies that make sense for America, for prosperity, and for peace. Let's come back, though, and talk about these brothers trying to flee the country, and Seth Rich and the next big shoe to drop, and so much more with Dr. Steve Pieczenik straight ahead. We'll also hear from him about what else he thinks President Trump should do next. We'll be back. All right, folks, we are back live. Dr. Jerome Corsi's joining us for the next segment. He broke the news that they were looting the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac money for Obamacare, and then he hammered it. I know, met with some of the folks from the White House as well, and said, have Trump defund this and don't let him loot Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And indeed, that is then what the president's now saying they're looking at doing. So that's his ace in the hole to defund this monstrosity if they won't get rid of it in Congress. So that's coming up in the next segment, really key intel. But getting back to Dr. Steve Pieczenik of StevePieczenik.com, Watchdog Group asked Congress to probe Representative Wasserman Schultz over fired IT aide who got caught with the laptops hidden in the Library of Congress, and the cops have got it, and Schultz threatens them, and she's over the District of Columbia in Congress and says, I'll cut your funding if you don't stop the investigation. I mean, wow. Talk about arrogant. IT worker for Florida Congresswoman fired, accused of bank fraud. USA Today exclusive. Wasserman Schultz aide in Pakistan still liquidating assets in the U.S. That's Daily Caller. That's after he got arrested trying to flee. Meanwhile, lawsuit claims Fox News and Trump supporter created fake story about killing of DNC staffer Seth Rich. They're acting like Seth Rich didn't even get shot in the back now. They are so scared of this Seth Rich thing. And I've seen the clips of this guy, and I know they can selectively edit. But he's up there saying he thinks the D.C. police, destroyed it, or the Secret Service did, and that the family hired him to go out and do this. He's saying he never said that. Or that Fox News made this up, and you got the heads of Fox News wanting to get rid of it, so they're kind of inviting these things on themselves, these sexual harassment suits, this, all of it, as a way to move within the culling of Fox to go after each new group they want to bring down. Sean Hannity's the next domino they want. Sean knows that and is already looking for an exit plan. What do you make of this, Dr. Pachenik?
Let me address first the Debbie Wasserman Schultz problem. There's no question the FBI and other agencies have to be involved in questioning her. She has no immunity whatsoever. I knew about her in Miami. She's not a very bright woman. She's got a loud mouth. She was a social worker. She was totally pandering to the left and to the old people in Miami. There's no question in my mind that the three brothers were clearly involved in, I'm sorry, I have dogs there, but they were.
I have dogs too. It's okay. Go ahead. Aiming
or defrauding the our government. They were also involved in counterintelligence and in all forms of infringement, a kind of a financial terrorism of the United States. Now, if they were in fact backed by the CIA has to be accountable for it, and they're going to have to bring them back. What I suggest very strongly, and this is a warning to Pakistan, that I suspect these brothers have a strong connection to the ISI in Pakistan, and I would warn Pakistan to regroup them back to the United States and then send them back here for prosecution.
By the way, we've got to go to break. Do a few more minutes with me because I'm going to push Corsi the next hour so we have more time. But let's just explain this. From all of my just studying public intelligence, what's out there, the Democrats, under the globalist model, have basically sold out every interest in the U.S. to any government that would let them, and that it's been a free-for-all, and that's what all the double servers were about, and letting foreign intelligence groups into your servers and not letting the FBI and NSA in, and that the Democrats are the ultimate group just completely, with no ideology, really, just shell everything and everyone out to a level never before seen. In a way, they are capitalists that they always criticize, but from a purely mercenary bent, but with an overall anti-America culture, which you'd have to be able to engage in such nasty activity.
Let me put it more simply. You said it very well. The truth of the Democrats are they're geriatric, they're 80, 78, 79. They're stupid. Most of them are not very bright.
Totally entitled.
Not very well educated, and they're arrogant and very self-destructive. So you have the three elements here, which we worked on when Hillary came forth. I said to you, she's not very bright. She cannot see any strategic elements. Same thing with Dianne Feinstein, boxer. All of them have the same attributes. And Maxine Waters, self-aggrandizement, parasitic behavior, self-destruction, and very low intelligence. Because,
by the way, I should add you're a psychiatrist. I want you to psychoanalyze them when we come back. I know there's the whole Goldwater rule, but just looking at past activity, when I look at Hillary and that power trip smile she has glued on, I've known other people that are mentally ill and basically mania about how powerful they are, whether it be a McDonald's manager, whether it be a bank manager. She has that same lunatic power trip look. How could she think she'd win? How could she think she was invincible when all the numbers showed she wasn't? So as a psychiatrist, you know, not just a former military guy and analyst, tell us what you think of her and this disease of arrogance that Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, and others have straight ahead, right down to the comedians that read off teleprompters like John Oliver. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us. It's a confidence game. I don't have a degree in psychology or a doctorate in it or a medical doctorate like Dr. Steve Pachenik. But just growing up, I noticed people who were delusional. They'd be like 5 years old and be a little girl imagining she was a princess. Or you'd be a little kid imagining you were Superman. But after about age 3, I remember saying to my friends, I don't want to play Superman because I'm not really Superman. And then you get around people in life that just, they get on these power trips and they just think they're invincible. And they always make the biggest mistakes in business, in life, you name it. And I don't know what you call that, but I look at the Democrats, the Republican leadership, you name it. They're on these power trips, the looks on their faces. I wouldn't buy a car from them. I would, if they were my neighbor, I'd be freaked out by it. They just look crazy. I mean, Hillary all the time looks insane. Walking around like seething with her eyes bugged out like she just snorted a bunch of methamphetamine, with a big, weird crocodile smile on her face, with a bunch of other weird sycophants running around behind her. I don't know what you call this psychologically, but it diseases them. And now we've got Nancy Pelosi. We've every time she speaks almost saying George W. Bush is still president and not knowing what legislation is, and they think that Trump's in bed with an attack on Korea with Putin. I mean, these people have less knowledge than a junior high student. And then they say, we're not changing any policies. We're going full steam ahead. We're not changing Democratic Party leadership. We're doing a great job, when all the numbers show they're a dying party, totally delusional. Their Russia narrative is hurting them, but they don't care. We're going back to Dr. Steve Pachinik here in a moment. But remember, we're listener-supported, from The Daily Show to CNN to John Oliver to Trevor Noah to every program out there, every fake news show with teleprompter reading actors posing as comedians, posing as newsmen. They demonize the fact that we sell products. In fact, the latest thing is I sell the desiccated bones of dead domesticated birds. Now, imagine they sit around and say, how do we make a bone broth formula? Now, the #1 seller in the country, how do we make that sound weird? Well, we say it tastes terrible, which isn't true. Then we say it's the desiccated bones of domesticated dead birds. No, the healthiest collagen out there that has no connections to spongiform encephalopathy, or prions, little crystals. They're not alive. It's not even like a virus. It's just a crystal thing that grows in some bovine that have been fed meat products and then can get in your brain. So we went with chicken. Everybody knows you leave the bones in when you make chicken broth when somebody's sick. Every wives' tale, every culture, the hottest thing out there. 2 years ago, when I went and did market research at Whole Foods and GNC, the hottest thing, and sold out, was bone broths. And so I went to the biggest manufacturer in the country. They act like Dr. Group's our manufacturer. He just does 1/3 of our stuff. He's a great guy. I went to one of the biggest organic producers, and I said, I want something 3 times stronger than anything else anybody makes. And we did it with chicken broth, bone broth. It's got all the trace elements, the minerals. It's got the cofactors. It's got basically the stem cells in it. And they take it and they put it together, and it's super strong. And that's why it's been sold out the 2 times we produced it. And that's why they hate us. So they turned that around. Let's play the Trevor Noah piece, and I'm going back to Dr. Pachinik, or John Oliver, whatever the idiot's name is. And to make it sound like we're dirty and bad, we're so kooky, he says we sell the dust of dead domesticated birds, like we're killing parrots or something. Now imagine if I said, we sell the meat of dead domesticated birds. That sounds gross. Or that if we sold chicken. But they make it sound bad, and they even attack that we sell coffee. High quality, southern Mexican, high mountain, volcanic, or super high quality coffee for $5 less than they sell it in Whole Foods. We get it from the exact same Chiapas farmers. I drank the coffee 20 years ago. I love it. I went, made the connections. We get it from the farmer co-ops for $5 less than it is in stores. It's a good deal. Wake Up America Coffee. They want to make fun of the fact that we sell things. So here's a brief clip of him engaging in alchemy, making it sound weird that we sell a high-quality bone broth formula with turmeric, chaga mushroom, bee pollen, and more superfoods. Here it is.
A chocolate-flavored drink mix made from bee pollen, stevia, and the dust of chicken skeletons. Now, according to InfoWars, it is one of the most popular new health trend in the world today. And by the look on Jones's face, it tastes exactly as good as it sounds.
Pour that in on a couple ice cubes, and folks, it tastes, when it's creamy and thick, I think better than Ovaltine. And it's got all the bone broth and so much more. This is why the ancients, they believe, had such better bones and were so much healthier. You can look it up. You could freeze this, and this would be better than, like, Bluebell chocolate ice cream. Mm.
Okay. I that Alex Jones did not enjoy drinking that glass of Caveman, because I have got a glass of Caveman right here, and I can confirm to you that it tastes... It tastes exactly how you imagine a drink would taste.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to do an analysis of this today or tomorrow. It's a 20-minute piece. He spent the whole show on it, basically, and it's all lies. He says Jones spends close to 25% of his time plugging products. If you count plugs on air and the ads, that's the standard for broadcast radio and TV. Okay? 25% of an hour is 15, and that's the industry average 30 years ago. It's more like 19 minutes now. So we have less than the industry standard of radio and TV broadcast. And he wouldn't know that because he's on HBO, which is owned by Time Warner, that made $28 million last year, ripping folks off on cable. So hated, one of the most hated companies in the world, that they've changed their name twice the last few years. So here is this guy acting like it's bad that we sell a bone broth formula that is so popular. I mean, it's literally hard to quantify, but we're talking about the amount of nutrients that you get in 50 bowls of chicken soup per serving. I mean, it's something ridiculous like that. You can't really quantify it. It's amazing. Or BioPQQ. He makes fun of the fact that we're talking about the fact that that's known for nerve growth factor. You can even make claims with that because it's recognized as a drug all over the world, but because it's a food, we can sell it. They're trying to make it a drug right now. No one debates BioPQQ and that we have the organic source that the Japanese Mitsubishi makes. And it's expensive. We have to go through a medical doctor to get it from them. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. It's just, this is how they Svengali this and how they take something and turn it bad. Now, the reason I didn't know Buckley had put milk in it, because I've been drinking it for weeks when it came in, and it tastes okay in water, okay? I mean, it's very strong. It tastes okay. Doesn't work with vanilla flavor. It works with chocolate and strawberry flavor. He added milk, put it in a blender, and I was like, why is this super good now? It went from okay. I said that in the full piece. And I said, what's going on? This is lighter color. He said, no, I drink it with milk. So I asked him to go make me some so I could do it on air. So the reason I'm going, why is that so good now is because it tasted okay before, and with milk, tastes amazing. You add ice into it, it tastes like a Frosty from Wendy's or something. The point is, you know what? I'm going to do the John Oliver challenge. I'm going to announce it later. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but I'm going to do something like a discount for folks to get it, and you can return it if you don't think it tastes great with milk. I've now done it with protein powder and milk, even better. My kids love it, and believe me, they wouldn't be drinking it if they didn't like it. They're so healthy drinking it. It's just crazy that they think you're so stupid. So free shipping ends tomorrow. We've been running it for a month. Huge discounts across the board. InfoWarsStore.com. 25% off on Caveman. 47% off on Myco ZX that gets into the fungus and yeast and stuff in your gut. InfoWarsStore.com. A bunch of big discounts. Colloidal silver, 66% off. One more thing he did is he said that I claim the competition will kill you in colloidal silver. I said in the full clip, don't go to someplace like a drugstore and get topical iodine and drink it, because it's not the same type of iodine and will eat a hole in your stomach and could kill you. That's a fact. I'm saying, it's not that I'm saying that's competition. It's not for ingestion. And people have emailed us and said, can I just buy the stuff, you know, at the store that's topical? And I'm like, no, talk to your physician. It says on the bottle, don't drink it. It's poison. Ours is a totally different type of iodine. But again, that's how they manipulate your mind. Now, I'm going to stop. I'm going to give them the floor for the rest of the hour. Dr. Steve Pieczenik, StevePieczenik.com. It's just that this is a war. We're trying to cut off our funding. InfoWarsStore.com. I should add, you should get his great books at StevePieczenik.com, both the fiction and nonfiction. Okay, going back to Steve Pieczenik. We were getting into Hillary's psychology, Madam President, I should say, and just the weird, delusional behavior, the way that they think they're invincible. You're a psychiatrist. You know, you're a guy that did the Camp David Accord, PSYOPs, the only successful peace deal in Middle East history. I mean, you know, you helped found Delta Force, you know, military psychology. You're a smart guy. We've seen all this diagnosing Trump from afar. So let's be honest. Give us your from afar analysis of Trump, and then give us your analysis of the Democratic Party leadership that act like the Hale Bop cult or something. Like you see cults, they walk around with this, we're invincible, everything's wonderful. I mean, what is going on? Did Martians replace them or something?
Let me say something, Alex. I may be a psychiatrist, but I'm your friend and I'm a friend of the show, and I've got to tell you something. I want you to understand that you are being praised by every time they make fun of you. I mean, you got to remember the old axiom, every knock is a boost. And I want you to turn that around because your mind is so sharp, you're so witty, that instead of being defensive, which I understand you could be, but you're far better on the attack. And quite honestly, they're increasing your penetration of a market that they never had. And so people come up to me.
Well, I didn't tell you this. I hadn't announced it. We checked the numbers. We normally lose money on a Sunday and a Saturday. Because of that, we had record sales for the month on Sunday and yesterday. He got people went and bought it.
I know, but here's what I suggest. Your mind's too fast.
Oh, come on.
What they do. Now, listen to me. I'm not being kowtow. I know you very well. I would suggest you either invite Oliver on your show and have a discussion or, go at it because you have a far better brain.
Well, I will invite him and his writers on because we all know Oliver is a composite.
No, I understand, but I want just you and Oliver because the wit that you have is far sharper than anybody realizes. And let me tell you something about yourself that you don't appreciate. Whatever you are or you're not, you are an incredible wit that can absorb things at a very high speed. And you've got to use that as a weapon to basically say, okay, they've been knocking me down, but you know what? I'm still up. So you got an Anderson Cooper. Go and talk to him. I mean, Anderson can't match your own wit.
We've invited them all on. They're all scared to come on.
Well, then fine, then go on their show. And so you went with Megyn Kelly. What did it do? It increased your ratings. But the reality is, you started with nothing. InfoWars was nothing. And suddenly we have millions of people buying a lot of products. Google has to censor you. They censor me, or Twitter has to censor. And the point of fact, take that as a point of compliment. That's your battle medal. You just went into one battle after another. And I'm saying to you, look, I have faith in your ability to absorb and to be able to respond so fast at the moment, even better than they are. I would not want to say that you're a better comedian, but I would honestly say you're a far better comedian, and you and I know that. So for you to be able to confront them, either on their show, your show, whatever you care about, it's not an issue of whether the product is good or not, or whether you have to rationalize anything. You don't have to rationalize anything. The bottom line is I would want you to go face to face with these guys, and you know that I know that your mind is far faster, far sharper, far more incisive. You're lethal when it comes to humor. And, these are the new humorists, so to speak. They can't compare to the old line guys like Bill Hicks and others who you might have known about. But the Bill Hickses and the other, the guys who really started the whole industry, that's what you're like. And when you come face to face with them, use it. Don't be defensive. That's fine. If they don't like your product.
Well, you're nice to say that. I totally get they're attacking us because we're effective. It's just that they're so incredibly full of bull. Now, seriously, let's get into the psychology of Hillary. You got cut off by the break.
Hillary, there's not very much psychology. I mean, I'm not going to put a diagnosis on her. I said day one when we went after her, she's not very bright. She's a manipulative individual. She's self-destructive. She's a sycophant. She has all the elements of what a classical politician is. But I said very early on, she's not bright. She has no concept of A to Z to Y. She has no strategic sense. Neither did Bill. In some ways, Bill is smarter because he understood what he had to do, and he got caught on it. Hillary got caught on it, but she didn't care. They're parasitic in nature. Most of these politicians, Pelosi, Feinstein, they all have husbands who've made a fortune, and they color their hair with this absurd brown or black dye. So, I mean, they're parasites that are, covered over with all kinds of nonsensical pharmaceuticals or you know, colors. The diagnosis for Trump isn't, and there is no mental diagnosis for Trump. Trump may be, he may be forceful, he's aggressive, he's mercurial, he's this, he may be that, but the bottom line is he built a multi-billion-dollar organization having to deal with an assortment of people. Now, if the American Psychoanalytical Association thinks that they can make official medical diagnosis on Trump, I welcome them. And then I would welcome working with Trump and his family to sue the hell out of the American Psychoanalytical. I was trained by psychoanalysts at Harvard. And I warned the psychoanalysts at Harvard, Mass Mental Health, you will go under in 5 years. I was right. They went under in 5 years. So basically, they're a small cult group. Freud had some input into our understanding, but Freudian theory is old. It's not applicable to many things. And they're a little group where they don't really have much experience in politics or government. I may be the only psychiatrist who's worked with 4 or 5 presidents directly and then went into the systems and helped them out. But I wasn't there to say, oh, he's crazy, she's crazy. I'm there to say, this is what you're going to do strategically. This is what you have to do tactically. What can I say? I couldn't have created a group of parasites that were 80 years old, Feinstein, Pelosi, 79, Maxine Waters, who confuses. I mean, it's so absurd that they're self-destructive.
Well, we're showing some footage right now of the Democrats meeting on Capitol Hill right now. There's Nancy Pelosi. I will be right back. Stay with us. All right, final segment, Dr. Steve Pachinik. Then we've got Dr. Corsi joining us. Big breaking news. I do intend to take a ton of calls later in the week. I've been taking more calls. Paul Joseph Watson's going to be hosting the 4th hour today. In fact, after Corsi leaves us, we'll start taking phone calls at the bottom of the next hour. I'll give that number out in the next hour. Want to understand tyranny. As corrupt people get into governing systems, they like to steal, they like to cheat, they like to manipulate, they don't like to actually build things. They bring in more people to build their empire, and at a certain point, it drives out all the producers, and you collapse like Venezuela is right now. But you look at the incredible production power of modern societies, it allows the baubles and things to keep flowing, and now with the robots coming in, will we reach a point where, despite the fact that we have incredible corruption and waste, that the kind of automated systems take over, and so you've got these insane, mentally ill people on power trips kind of running things. They're the ghost in the machine, and then now the mistakes that normally would just kick them out of power manifest as giant wars or crises that get magnified or exacerbated once they actually get triggered because they get held off so long and papered over by the advances we've made as a civilization. Or do the advances expose them and bring them down faster? I mean, I don't think anyone knows the answer to this, but a lot of the top billionaires themselves are moving to very remote areas. They're very paranoid. They believe things are going to collapse. Dr. Pachinik is an optimist. What do you think is going to happen?
I think your latter point was right on the head. What's happening, and I've said it from day one, and you and I have discussed it, and you thought I was a genius when I said it, but I'm still saying it's a devolution of power. The federal government is becoming more and more irrelevant. That's why the Rex Tillersons can come in. They can cut the State Department. There are 20,000 people. I could honestly say I could work with the State Department with about 10 people. Kissinger did that. Baker did that. Almost everybody else. It's the same issue that Kelly will come in. He will cut the staff 50% or even more. The bottom line is very simple. None of our politicians, either Republican or a Democrat, have ever really created a company or built anything. And the truth of the matter is America's waiting for the infrastructure. And that's the one thing I would say to Trump and to Kelly. Get rid of all the other nonsense. Let's start putting in money into the infrastructure. I don't know why Obamacare came up first. I don't know why anything else came up first. You have to get into the infrastructure. The minute we get into infrastructure, you will see the power of the different states, the counties, and the American people. Now, you got to remember also, at this present time, the economy is so good that we have a 2% growth rate. We should get to 4%, but at the same time, we have the lowest unemployment ever. That had nothing to do with Congress. That has nothing to do with the Senate. It has everything to do with the fact that we have small business people. Automation will present a very serious problem, and that problem is for the millennials and others, because we're going to have to get into a gig economy, or GIG economy, where an individual who's a millennial will have to have more than one job. I just met a young man, an African-American who's 20 years old. He has a talent management agency. He has something else. He's involved in the National Guard. He has 2 or 3 businesses, and he's only 20 years old. But he's effective. The same thing down in the South. I see young people building up companies faster than anyone can imagine. The fact of Hollywood, they're finished. They can't make these 5-minute infomercials. They can't make a 5-minute spot on the internet. So what happened with the internet, and our military and DARPA understood it, we broke up the federal government. And that's why, in effect, our military understood this better than anyone. It's not an accident. I was trained in 1972 by Defense Advanced Research Project Agency.
Tell you what, back in 70 seconds. I want to hear about this in 70 seconds. 5 more minutes with Steve Pachenik, then Dr. Corsi. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Tons of key breaking news there right now. Spread those articles, folks. The globalists hate it. We can overpower their IT, their AI with you. We're starting to win, but we're in one hell of a fight. Dr. Steve Pachenik was finishing up getting into the internet was designed, the bureaucrats believe, to take full control, but instead it's empowering the people. They're trying to bring in censorship tools right now, so the battle over the future of the freedom of speech, not just the web, is happening now. But getting back to Dr. Steve Pachenik, who first predicted these net wars and cyber wars 30-something years ago in his books, break down where you think we're currently at and the points you were trying to make.
Well, what I'm trying to make is that the government itself is devolving. We don't need very much government anymore. And basically what's happening, we're going to the local government, the governors, the commissioners. For example, in the government, we have cyber issues. But if you have Proofpoint, the corporation, who's the only one that can do quantum encryption, which is a fancy way of saying that they can handle randomware that's coming all over the world, as opposed to what the government can do in cyber command.
Things have to be small, they have to be fast moving, they have to be divided up, or they can be infiltrated.
Well, yeah, but again, we're talking about a mass of people. When you're attacking HBO, they're finished. When you're attacking Fox, you're talking about the sons of a man who was 88 years old. They're not relevant. When you're talking about TV, they're not relevant. When you're talking about movies, they're not relevant. So what's relevant? Twitter. You have become relevant because that's where they want to go to alternative news media. What's relevant? Proofpoint, a corporation that has quantum encryption that's way beyond anything we've ever had in the government, because we don't have the ability to fight the malware. What else is relevant? We are a formidable force. We can make a company in 24 hours, an LLC, and start it up. We can't do that in England. We can't do that in France. You can't do that in China. You can't do that anywhere in the EU. So what's happening, the EU will eventually break up. Brexit will occur. Scotland wants to go with the EU. Russia is already allying itself with China and the United States, irrespective of what anybody else says. Africa is a point of strategic interest for China and ourselves. The Chinese just built a 400 railroad from Djibouti to Ethiopia. So what's happening is we're coming back to what I call the 16th century Dutch model, where the growth is going around the world, and what the Chinese call the one belt, one road. And so they understand they don't want a conflict with the United States. North Korea doesn't want conflict with the United States. All that missile stuff is junk. That's just show. Because underneath it, he understands if we take away his missiles, then we're going to do to him what we did to Gaddafi and what we did to Saddam Hussein. And most leaders don't like that. So they don't trust the United States. It's not an issue we're going to war with them. We don't want war. We don't need the war. But we have force structures that can prevent it. Strategic Mutual assured destruction, we know in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that it was involved, has worked, and we don't want to go to war. They don't want to go to war. We're not going to have a nuclear war. Where we will have problems, and this is what I've said for a long time, are the places where the media and the government hasn't looked at, and that's between China and India. Those two powerhouses each have over 1 billion people, need water. And right now they have skirmishes over Bhutan, B-H-U-T-A-N, which is a small country, but they've been fighting there. Now, you don't have any exposure of that in the news. Why? Because they're not very bright. Most of the people...
There's also almost no coverage of ISIS and Al-Qaeda being 99% destroyed.
No,
huge
correct.
victory.
So you explain it to me. If you ran a cable network or you ran the New York Times and you had no coverage of the fact that ISIS was destroyed in Mosul, ISIS is being destroyed in Raqqa, what kind of a paper are you? And now you're seeing India watching China's bid to court Bhutan, right? And that's basically going into war. So all of the things that attacked you, you have to look at and say, wow, maybe I need more people to attack me, because you're the key element and you're the person.
Well, I appreciate you being positive and trying to cheer me up. I know that. I'm celebrating it. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Dr. Steve Pachenik. We don't go over our successes to brag about it. We do it to explain to the listeners why we're under so much attack, why they lie about us, why they're trying to take us down. I don't get up here and defend President Trump because he's been on the show before, or I talked to him some, off air, or, because he's the president and I care about some celebrity. I could care less about that. I care because the globalists are trying to bring him down. He's killed the TPP that literally ended our sovereignty. He's pulled us out of the carbon taxes. The illegals coming across the border are down 69% according to ICE, and the numbers show that. He is not letting people come in from unvetted failed states like Libya and, of course, Sudan and Somalia, where imams issue the passports. It'd be like if some new caveman island was discovered and we just let folks in from there without even vetting them. It's like John Oliver said, the xenophobia is incredible of vetting anyone for diseases when they come in. What do you think Ellis Island is? What do you think it was used for? The Statue of Liberty. It's just insane. Now, going back to January, Dr. Jerome Corsi wrote stories showing in documents, federal documents, in lawsuits, $290+ billion. Now it's well over $300 billion that's been discovered of money looted out of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac by Obama, and there'd been no coverage of this. Months later, the head of the Treasury Department was asked about this on Fox News and said, no, yes, indeed, it's true. Now, when we started breaking these, they really started coming after us, which is great. Our audience has gotten even bigger because mainstream news doesn't have many viewers, but The Daily Show and The Late Show, and those broadcasts, John Oliver, his average YouTube video gets like 12 million views. The top video on YouTube is him attacking me. And then our sales just skyrocketed Sunday and Monday of InfoWars Live products. Because people instinctively know the show's funny. Hundreds of writers work on those programs. Hundreds. You're talking more than 20 full-time just on that show alone. And so it's funny stuff, but people know that it's the establishment attacking us, so they think we better go find out what these products are. So it's exciting to see that no weapon formed against us prospers, and even their own audience know they're liars. But they're attacking us because of stuff like this, because we can take documents that we got from White House sources. They've been giving this to other media. They wouldn't cover it, which just shows how good Trump is, that this information's coming out from the White House. It's not secret info. It's info that was available, but that no one else would report. We were put on this back in January. Of course, he probably wrote 50, 60 articles on it. And now you see Trump come out last week and said, if you don't repeal it, I can just cut the funding out of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that Obama, using executive power, allowed to be looted. And he also hinted that he's not going to let Congress continue to have the best health care in the world and have the taxpayer paid for, that he'll try to get legislation sponsored to take that away. Don't you think that'd be popular? I say get rid of it, just like Trump gives up his paycheck. So They're calling him a loser because in 6 months he didn't get it repealed. He's a total winner for fighting hard to repeal it and getting a good bill that Rand Paul called a good bill. That has Rand Paul and Ron Paul endorsing it. That's a big deal. But the good news here is that he's now going to kill it one way or another. The only way Trump loses is if he stops fighting, and if we stop fighting. It's Obamacare. They're the ones that created it. It's not his fault that the Republican leadership who helped write it wants to keep it there. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves knowing it's a bipartisan screw job and Trump's trying to get rid of it. And you're there fighting it when they admit it's designed to bankrupt health care fully. But just like they made fun of him when the Ninth Circuit and others slapped him down and said, you can't stop people coming in from unvetted nations. Once it got to the Supreme Court, they said 9-0. Of course, the law, a 5-year-old could understand it. The president has much wider powers than that. The globalists have taken our Bill of Rights away. Then they claim there's some Bill of Rights to people that aren't citizens. There aren't. New documents support Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac shareholders in court. These are articles by Corsi. Proof positive Obama administration stole dividends from Fannie and Freddie shareholders. Dr. Corsi. Trump admin, we intend to stop Obamacare looting scheme. That's from back in May. Now Trump's threatening it himself. Congress still won't stop Obamacare looting scheme. That's back in April. Confirmed, Treasury says Obama stole from Fannie Freddie investors to fund Obamacare. March 13th. I'm going from the newest to the oldest. Exclusive, Obama illegally robbed Fannie and Freddie to fund Obamacare. That's from February. He first began to talk about it in January. Going back 6 months, now all confirmed. Now the president's saying he has the power to do it. He has him in checkmate, just like he did with the open borders, just like he did with people coming in from unvetted radical Islamic countries, with the imams issuing the passports from Cracker Jack boxes. So this is a big deal, and it's why they hate us. And you notice no media covered this the first 3 months until the head of the Treasury said it was accurate. Then the dam broke, and now the president, with the public educated, can stop the looting and stop one of the other decent programs to empower Americans for first-time home ownership. Again, Obama dynamiting and trying to get rid of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which he admitted he wanted to do, because they don't want a middle class. They want renters in 200-square-foot coffin apartments. It's so parasitic. So, Dr. Corsi, very satisfying for me, and I know for you, to see this bearing fruit from your White House sources. What's the next shoe to drop?
Well, and thanks, Alex. I think we clearly broke the story, and it has been validated. And now that the next shoe is that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in Congress think that now they've got President Trump where they want him, that no health care reform or repeal is going to be passed. So they think they're just going to be able now to go back in and increase the giveaways and increase the insurance subsidies. Democrats will have to come running in order to prevent a disaster of Obamacare just imploding. President Obama set this up this way. I mean, this was the whole thieving out of Fannie and Freddie and using it to prop up Obamacare that for funds that Congress did not appropriate on the insurance subsidies. Well, President Trump has realized this, and he's saying, look, I'm just going to pull those insurance subsidies, and Obamacare would implode within about 60 days. And President Trump knows it. And he's saying, okay, I gave you the chance to fix it. Now the fix is going to be, it's going to implode, Obamacare is going to crash of its own weight, and we're not going to fix it with more government money.
Why did the White House...
That's the solution.
Why did because you've written 3 articles with similar headlines. We'll pull some of them up. Trump can kill Obamacare with one action. How President Trump can end Obamacare with a stroke of a pen. You've written 3 articles in the last few months, going back to April, where you've said exactly that. Now, word for word, he's saying that. But it's not like he's getting that from us. You talked to White House sources that alerted you to this. I guess going back to right after he got inaugurated. We've been on it. Why did the White House work in that way in reverse, basically putting us on it and then letting it develop that way, then having the Treasury Secretary come out and say it's true, and then now have the president say this?
Well, it's a combination of things. First of all, we've got very good sources in Washington in general, and not for illegal leaks. This is for
simply the sharing of information that the administration does with journalists who will listen. Secondly, we had very good sources.
Yeah, this is public lawsuits that no one dare touch.
Right, exactly. Misinformation's available. The journalists, typically, the mainstream media just won't pick it up and won't investigate it. Secondly, we had excellent sources all through Washington that were confirming this for us, people who were very close to Fannie and Freddie. Some of the shareholders, once we published our first articles, what happens is people who have new information begin providing it to me. And I begin getting sources that I didn't know I had coming forward with internal documents that they've had.
And by the way, I'm not trying to take credit away from you or myself or anybody. I'm just pointing out this is how informed the White House is.
And what the White House is going to do, see, the White House is setting it up now that on Fannie and Freddie, there was a very subtle change in one of the Federal Home Finance Agency's communications. We're being told that before the end of the year, Fannie and Freddie are going to be allowed to keep their earnings, and that the Trump administration is going to recapitalize Fannie and Freddie to preserve the 30-year mortgage and first-time home buying. Trump is dedicated to home buying.
Another incredible gift to the American people of free market entrepreneurship and a basis of our economy that the globalists were removing.
And Senator Corker and others in Congress, I attended one of the hearings very recently, reported on it in Washington. The big banks and Wall Street desperately want to grab a hold of the mortgage finance market so they can push it towards big value properties and rental. That's where the Obama administration was going to go. We now are told, we're being told, before the end of the year, Fannie and Freddie are going to begin recapitalizing, and the Trump administration is going to save them. And at the same time, President Trump understands that Congress, didn't stop Obama from using the Fannie Freddie stolen money to fund Obamacare, but he can. President Trump, through just a stroke of the pen, through saying we are no longer going to do these illegal payments to prop up Obamacare, and he said virtually those same words. I mean, it's coming right out of what we're writing. But additionally, the administration's headed down this path, and they're allowing us to telegraph it by giving us information that's public record. It just needs to be researched, needs to be worked over.
Sure, just like we broke that Priebus would be out and that General Kelly would be in. We broke that on Tuesday, 3 days before it broke. I mean, it's just amazing. We'll be right back. Stay there. Let's talk about the next shoe to drop with this straight ahead. But this is what a JFK would do. A classic Democrat would do something through free market to empower people economically. The modern Democrats are dynamiting it and want to give it to the big banks. Evil, evil, evil. Crashing the lies and disinformation, waging war on corruption. Coming to you live from deep in the heart of Texas. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Infowars.com is the news site. This is the broadcast, the transmission. Think of the evil. Looting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and admitting it was a plan to end entry-level home ownership, to kill the American dream, to make it insolvent, just like they did General Motors, to then come in and federalize it and further loot it. The Democratic Party. Talk about evil. And then you've got Obama and Soros and Bloomberg all over the news saying home ownership's bad. We want you to live in coffin apartments that you pay more for. And then you look at who the top Democrats are. They're a bunch of people that own these rat hole apartments they're coming out with, where they write laws locally where you basically incentivize to live in a 250 square foot coffin. This is the plan. Trump is dynamiting it as he moves forward, shoring up our economy. When you really study the economy and things, it's incredible how good Trump is. But the big question, my crew was even asking during the break, why then is he getting rid of his friends so often and bringing in more establishment people? Well, I think the answer is that's who there is from the establishment, is the establishment, and Trump thinks like an executive and thinks they'll follow his orders. Stocks are soaring. Trump's scoreboard holds at 39% increase in the stock market since he got in. Small businesses and others are the engine of that. They believe America's open for business, but can the Federal Reserve, by raising interest rates and by other news they've been putting out, beat the Trump recovery? Dr. Corsi, your degree is in finance and the economy from Harvard. That's what you've done most of your life, not just a journalist. What is your prognosis for the economy?
I think the economy is going to continue to be strong, robust. Already we're seeing the impact of the regulations that Trump has reversed, the Obama regulations. That's been a huge boost. And what you're going to see is, I think there will be a tax cut legislation. I think this is something that Trump will get through, and you're going to see a huge burst in the economy. By the way, Alex, I also want to make sure we cover one more point on the, we're doing the breaking advanced news already. The series of stories I'm writing on Mueller. I've written 2 on Mueller, how he did
the total Democrat
missions.
deep state operative. Yeah, how is their ongoing witch hunt, dragnet, fishing expedition of all time going?
Well, and Mueller was a bagman. He took uranium to Russia on a secret mission in 2009, and Russia already had samples of that. That came from a 2006 heist. At least that's what they said. One of the WikiLeaks cables revealed this mission to us, but I think it had nothing to do with that. I think it was Mueller was doing advance work for Hillary on this uranium-1 deal.
Well, we know he's been a Clinton operative all along. That's why it's such a joke that Rosenstein ever appointed him.
But we're going to do, over the next few days, maybe I take 2-3 weeks, maybe the same series like I wrote on the Fannie Freddie. I'm going to expose various aspects of Mueller's career, where we're going to make it absolutely clear to the American public that Mueller is a Clinton fixer, and that he's in there to go after Trump. And this is the basis on which Trump is going to be able to eventually convince the American people that Mueller needs to go. Mueller should be under investigation for colluding with Russia with Hillary in this uranium deal. And before we're done, the American people are going to understand that Mueller himself needs to be the target of a grand jury called by the Department of Justice. And if he's the target of a grand jury, he can't be special counselor. Trump intends to remove Mueller, and we're going to publish enough information to make it absolutely clear that Mueller has no business being special counsel.
And now we have top Republican congressmen saying the same thing. There's be criminal investigations of all of them. That's why they keep saying Russia, 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 is because they've all been making a little money on the side in there with the old Ruskies.
A lot of money. In fact, Podesta and Hillary, the reset, was to sell U.S. military technology to Russia. And Hillary and Podesta got well paid for it. This Joule stock, Joule, comes from that Podesta was getting paid for. Again, the WikiLeaks made it clear that Podesta was getting the stock under the table, and they were investing money in his U.S. ventures. This was a payback.
You know what? This is huge. Stay there. I want to come back briefly and finish up with this information, Dr. Corsi, and then I want to get into the whole Seth Rich case with these brothers and Imran Awan and trying to flee the country, and Schultz threatening the police to give back the laptops. And now they're saying don't even question the murder of Seth Rich. In fact, the media is acting like he was never even killed. It's a conspiracy theory to even say he existed. That's the next level of disinformation. They are so scared on this topic. Infowars.com. Stay with us.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run.
Dr. Corsi's leaving us here in a few minutes. Then I'm going to take your phone calls. Here's the number. It's 800-259-9231. That's the weekday number. Different than the Sunday show. 800-259-9231. First-time callers. On any of the subjects that we've raised today, we're taking first-time callers. Please honor that, folks, because I want to give first-time callers a chance to call in. 800-259-9231 on any of these big issues that we've raised or covered here today. The headline of the London Independent: Robert Mueller must resign as special counsel overseeing the Republican investigation, says top Republican congressman. The president has warned the prosecutor would cross a red line if he probes his finances. Well, now he's doing it to his family, his associates, and non-Russia related. That's Trent Franks of Arizona, has said that Mr. Mueller, who is currently overseeing a federal probe to possible links between the Trump campaign and Russia, alleged attempt to interfere in the 2016 election, should have resigned because of what he claimed was a conflict of interest. And then it gets into him and the trips to Russia, the uranium, and all the rest of it. I mean, it's just incredible how these people, everything they've said Trump has done, they've done in spades. His whole law firm is Democrat. His whole witch hunt crew is Democrat. They gave 99.8% of their money to Hillary in campaign contributions. That's all coming up. That's what the whole fake Russia narrative is about. But briefly, we're ending the free shipping tomorrow, quite frankly, because I haven't gotten around to coming up with the new specials. We've run free shipping for a month. We normally run free shipping for 1 week a couple times a year, but I said, you know what? Let's just run free shipping for an entire month. I did it. Folks have really loved it. And we're going to end the biggest specials we've ever had. And I keep having the biggest specials ever because I keep increasing the amount of the specials because folks really take advantage of it. We have the new True Whey protein for 25% off. Now available, super high quality, made by one of the biggest manufacturers of grass-fed whey in the country, coming from cows. Just the ultimate amino acid, ultimate system with the glutathione, and so much more. InfoWarsLife.com. We've got a bunch of other specials as well, a whole laundry list of specials that, again, are unprecedented. We have 46% off the Myco ZX that, again, is the other side of the equation for probiotics that goes after the mold, the fungus, the yeast. We have 46% off on that. We have 66% off on colloidal silver. We have 20% off on DNA Force, though that is about to sell out. So that's Silver Bullet, 66% off. Strawberry Caveman, 25% off. We have Silver Special, Super Silver Special. That's the electric toothbrush that has colloidal silver in it so that you don't reinfect yourself every time you brush your teeth with any microbes that are there. It helps get deeper into the gums. I mean, it's just well known what silver does. With a bottle of Silver Bullet colloidal silver and the Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, 50% off. That is an amazing deal. Pro Pure Traveler, this is going to end again tomorrow, 30% off retail. Leading competitors aren't even as good and cost $250 for a stainless steel system that isn't even as good. This is the best deal ever on the best system. Pro Pure Traveler, that's their smaller unit, $132. Alexa Pure Breeze, comparable units are $600 to $400. It's a steal at $219, but right now it's 25% off, $149. Incredible. Vitamin Mineral Fusion with all the amino acids, a very powerful formula, great for your children to actually absorb their multivitamins and minerals and amino acids, but it's great for adults as well. Tastes great. It's 33% off. Knockout, 50% off. The Sleep Aid, Prostate Guard, 33% off. Leading competitors are $50, and they're not even strong. Saw palmetto. It's recognized to be good for your prostate. We have other ingredients as well. This is $14.95 right now at 50% off, but even at regular price, it's a great deal. So again, we have Conservatism is the New Counterculture coffee mug. That is 33% off. Myco ZX, as I said, 46% off. DNA Force, 20% off. That is about to sell out. So we're ending the July specials tomorrow because tomorrow is August 2nd. And we're ending the free shipping. We'll have some new specials on Wednesday, but it won't be as widespread. It won't be as deep because we just cannot continue to always discount stuff where many of the products are loss leaders or we make like $5 on it or whatever. Yes, we sell an impressive amount of storable food too. But when we're giving 40% off, already the lowest price you're going to find out there with My Patriot, at 40% off, we're making like 5% or something. That's why we sell so much. But yeah, it's like when Ted Anderson, when the gold market was hot, would sell $100 million worth of gold a year sometimes. But when he was making 1% on it, you could go bankrupt doing that. It's a big number. Wow, $100 million. And you charge, your better deals, maybe 2% on it or something, 3%. You don't make money. And that's what I'm saying. We have these massive discounts, but we have to sell a lot of it to do it. So yes, big, impressive numbers because we're cutting the prices, and it's undercutting Amazon. I don't like Amazon, folks. Everybody knows that they're globalists, they're anti-American, anti-gun. That's why I did free shipping for a month. They get a subsidy of $1.48 on every package they ship. from the U.S. Postal Service. We don't get that. That's the deals they've made with Congress and the Democrats. It needs to be taken away. So our average shipping is about $7 with USPS. So understand, when I do free shipping, it costs us $7. When he does free shipping, he makes money. That's what Bezos has done. He's not free market. So understand, you fund him and get better deals, you're slitting your own throat. Just saying. And I tell my wife, I'm like, why do I, and I'm not mad at her, but I tell her, why are there more Amazon packages? She goes, it's so easy, they got everything. And I said, yeah. I said, go buy it from the source of all these places. And I said, if you can't do it there, then you know, just go get it at a store. I even had them 2 years ago stop our Amazon shops, even though we were selling a lot with them, because I just do not want to be associated with them. They're destroying the country. They're funding the Washington Post, trying to destroy the president and us. They have Washington Post articles saying I sell snake oil when he owns Whole Foods that sells the exact same products. Half our products are private label. John Oliver implied that I'm like a pedophile because it says it makes your children calm and relaxed. It's been sold by Whole Foods before Whole Foods existed. It's a 30-plus-year-old product under another name, same bottle, of a syrup of a bunch of known herbs to make your kids operate. And it's not depressants. It just makes the brain operate smoother with known herbs that are also antiviral and a bunch of other things. It's got elderberry and you name it. They act like our childese is pervert. That's how their brains work. Designed to soothe the mind and bodies of children. Hey, buddy, it's Time Warner that owns you. And all these other companies that is the one covering up what's going on. Now, there is government subsidies, 146 of every Amazon box shipped, study finds. Wall Street Journal. See what I'm saying? So we're exposing the pedophile networks they want to shut down, and then meanwhile they're saying we're perverts for selling childies. And I'll tell you what it is, private labeled. It's Calm Child. That's what ours is. It's one of the top-selling products for 30-plus years. We private label it as childies. And my children take it every morning, and they love it. It tastes like licorice, and it's full of a bunch of concentrated, high-quality herbs. It's low cost. It's super high quality, and they attack that. But guess what? People know that you're liars, John Oliver. You're writers. John Oliver said, don't call me boy, and this is one area he's right on. You're not supposed to call people boys or girls. That's hurtful to folks that are non-binary beings, G or Z. So listen here, G. No, you are a boy. You've got 20-something writers. You're not even a real person. You do these little fake, oh, really? Oh, like a little leprechaun voice. And you sit there with your great gravitas. It took you a month to put together one piece. We're live on air, teleprompter free. You have a laugh track rolling. So you know what? You're not a real person. So I shouldn't compare you to a boy. You're a facsimile. You're a talking head that reads off a teleprompter, and they play a laugh track for you, and you take days to shoot one 30-minute program. Wow. You're beyond, what you are is an actor. That's why he said, I'm a performer, I'm an actor. And they seize upon my lawyer constantly when they're trying to enter pieces of me dressed up like the Joker, acting completely nuts, saying this, he's a psychotic. And we go, Your Honor, don't let this enter into evidence. He's clearly being an actor, just like Jack Nicholson is when he plays the Joker. Yes, I'm playing the Joker when I'm saying drink your fluoride, take your Prozac, you'll see pretty colors before you get cancer and die. It's called satire, but because I can be an actor sometimes doesn't mean I'm an actor when I say these political things. A 2-year-old should be able to understand and differentiate, but they just keep hammering and hammering and hammering because they're actors. They don't get to be real people. They get the talking points. And he's exposing the chemicals, changing the sexuality of people, and the declassified Ford Foundation plan to do it from 1947. We've got to stop him. So every show makes fun of me, even though it's all over the scientific literature that people are having their sexes confused, they're getting cancer from the runoff from the estrogen mimickers. They don't want to debate. So it's always the talking point, attack that. Then the writers all get the same talking points, and they're frustrated that they don't get to have their own world. They don't get to have their own life. They don't get to have their own questions, that they have to live other people's lives. They are frustrated that I live and they're puppets. So I apologize to the writers and the producers that create the composite that is John Oliver for calling you boy. What you are is traitors and scum and fascistic trash who aren't real people and who are holding on, clinging as the winter comes, like dying grasshoppers holding on to a blade of grass. And we all know what happens to people when their season ends. I'm an ant. I've been under attack the whole time underground getting ready. We haven't even emerged and shown you what we've done subterraneanly. So the winter is here, grasshopper. Bye-bye. Dr. Corsi continuing now with the fact that Mueller is in these operations shipping samples of and smuggling with his diplomatic pouch as the head of the FBI uranium as a courier boy for Hillary and Podesta, expanding on that and then tying it into the latest on Seth Rich as Desi Wasserman Schultz, it comes out, and the people being arrested and people liquefying their assets and fleeing to Pakistan, and as it mounts and mounts and mounts, they're basically saying that Seth Rich didn't exist now. If you even question a guy shot in the back, you're evil, you're a bad person.
Well, I think both stories, I'm taking pretty much the same approach. I'm writing on Mueller. You're going to see a whole series of stories on Mueller that we print. I've got another one in the works today expanding this uranium story, because Mueller was Attorney General, took this secret trip with bringing uranium to Russia that's never really been explained. WikiLeaks was the one to reveal it. In 2009, 2010 through 2013, Hillary and the Clinton Foundation participated in a pay-to-play scheme. Russia gets 20% of U.S. uranium mined today. The Clintons get paid off in the Clinton Foundation. Mueller's Attorney General, and he does nothing. This is about the first of 5 or 6 scandals where I'm going to bore into Mueller and make sure the American public know exactly who he is. The same way we've done with Seth Rich. I mean, we had a huge story that the FBI changed the time of the break-in to that FBI vehicle to make it seem like criminals broke into that vehicle before Seth Rich was killed, used the guns, and then went and killed Seth Rich in a wild act. When the fact is that the report on the break-in of the FBI vehicle was at close to 7:49 in the morning, after Seth Rich was killed. That's the FBI rewriting history in order to divert everybody to think it was a group of criminals who stole the FBI weapons, who then shot Seth Rich when the two had nothing to do with each other. And that's what the records show. But no one article does this, just like I've written many articles on Fannie Freddie and get the point across. We're going to write many articles on Mueller. We've got this Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the Imran Iwan case, Seth Rich. I mean, it was the Democrats who were colluding with Russia. It was the Democrats who were deep into the hacking and leaking of documents throughout the convention, and the leaking that was going on in the Obama White House with NSA taps being leaked to journalists. All of this has got to be investigated, and we're going to do it. I was convinced last week that had it not been for the Obamacare vote, I think Jeff Sessions was gone. I think he was going to be replaced. He's hanging on by a thread, but Jeff Sessions better start listening and better start investigating the Democrats, or he won't have a long term with Donald Trump.
Dr. Corsi, looking at Debbie Wasserman Schultz threatening the D.C. police that as a member of Congress she's over, or as representative for that district, I mean, it's so transparent, and then the brother trying to flee and getting caught and liquefying the assets, and I mean, these people are so arrogant, it's so crazy. And now I saw this detective on TV saying he was hired by the family, saying that he thought the FBI had the information. The family was out first saying they thought it was suspicious. Obviously, their son shot in the back. They hire a Democrat PR person. Now that changes. This guy sues Fox News saying that it's a conspiracy of Trump. I mean, Seth Rich got shot in the back. These brothers are running. Schultz is saying all of this. The detective did tell Fox 5 that. I mean, the clips you can see have been edited, but we've played them before. I guess we could play them right now, maybe. I mean, it's pretty clear what he said. So now what I've noticed is these lawsuits get filed that don't really have merit. and then it just gets used as if a lawsuit is the conviction, and none of it's true. I mean, they are so scared of this Seth Rich story.
And these things have got to be investigated. By the time we get finished with Mueller, Mueller should be under investigation himself, a target of a grand jury for his role in not investigating the Clinton Foundation pay-to-play scam, selling 20% of the U.S. uranium to Russia, and himself taking the secret mission. We still don't know what it was about. We do know they lied because Russia had, since 2006, samples of that exact uranium. They didn't need it delivered by Mueller in a secret mission on a tarmac to hand over the sample of uranium on a tarmac, again, just like the Loretta Lynch Bill Clinton meeting, and the whole thing stinks. And we're going to continue boring into that.
Let's be clear why it's on tarmacs, because it bypasses customs.
Sure, and it's an easy way for criminals always operate on the tarmac. I mean, it's that's an easy way to do it. Look, this and the Debbie Wasserman Schultz story, the Seth Rich story, these stories are not going to go away. And the more stories, the more investigation that continues to be done on them, you're going to find new information coming out. We still don't have the police reports. We don't have the hospital reports on Seth Rich's death. We don't have the autopsy. All of this is being suppressed.
Well, it's clear when they've got the Democrat Party top crisis manager on top of it day one, and then now you got these brothers involved, and Schultz is so desperate, and the police won't release the laptop because they know they've got something here, that they are running scared. You got WikiLeaks saying that basically Seth Rich was their source. You got the media saying, don't dare question a homicide. It's as if we killed Seth Rich now. It's amazing. Dr. Corsi, thank you.
A great pleasure, and I think you're going to find Donald Trump doing more tweeting following our Mueller stories in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's InfoWars' job. Putting out the hardcore news first, making it safe for everybody else to pick it up, just like how the Democrats, I told you, were planning to kill Trump, planning to have a COG overthrow. Now it's mainstream news. We are forcing them out in the open. All right, I skipped this break so we can get to your phone calls. We're going to go to Leanne. We're going to go to Kathy. We're going to go to Antonio. We're going to go to Rick. We're going to go to Matthew here in just a moment. But again, I want to thank you all for your prayers and your support. I keep pointing out why we're cutting edge, why we're on target, why we're breaking stuff first every day, giving you examples, because they keep saying we're fake news, we're frauds, we're evil, we're bad people, because they are all of those things, and we are 100% on target and real. We are committed, and we're having a big effect. So the info war is your fight, and I know you know that, but I want you to understand, when you thank me, it's really, well, it's humbling, because it's you speaking out, taking action, supporting us, spreading articles, spreading videos, getting the stories out. Quite frankly, after, of course, he'd written like 10 of these stories about Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac being looted, I said, listen, you can keep writing whenever you want because you're a smart guy, but I said, isn't there other subjects? And he said, you watch. This is going to be key to bringing down Obamacare. This is going to get big. And the White House thinks this is really important. I'm like, okay. And notice, you don't see the media attacking me on that. They're always wanting to make White House connections. Now that they know those connections are so real and so bona fide, you're not hearing word one about any of this now. Because they know that, and they know how much credibility we have, and they know that people out there like Wolf Blitzer having to admit that they have horrible sources and that they're a joke. It actually broke down 2 days ago. I've never played that clip. We probably should. But I've got some other clips I want to play here as well. Procter & Gamble shows black parents talking to kids about racism as if whites are inherently racist. That's the new corporate model. In Scotland, the government's funding musicals for TV where whites are inherently evil and bad and have to be done away with. I mean, it just goes on and on. I've got CNN host says Trump voters staged a rebellion against people like us. And then he lists minorities. I mean, they are just literally turning minorities into arrogant, frothing, hateful racist, or at least they're trying to, And it's weirdo white people that own these big corporations that are the ones doing it. And the average person is just trying to have a job and live their life and be friendly. Let's go ahead and play the clip of Fareed Zakaria on CNN yesterday saying this, and then we're going to go to your phone calls. I don't know if I have time to get to all the others, but it is just a full-on cartoon-level race baiting because they can see the demographics. They don't want minorities buying into free market, Second Amendment, private property. It's game over. But if they can get them to buy into race-based systems that are then attached to socialism, they're going to win. Let's go to the elitist of the elitist journalist, Fareed Zakaria.
Part of it that I was most impressed by in doing the research for this is we know about the economics, we know about the hollowed out factories and the coal mines, and what I was struck by was the other two factors. So that's, if you will, capitalism. The other factor is culture, a real sense of cultural alienation that the older white non-college educated Americans have, the sense that their country is changing because of immigrants, because maybe blacks are rising up to a kind of central place in society, because of gays being accorded equal rights, because of, frankly, a lot of working women. Everybody is sort of muscling in on a territory that, if you think about it, the white working man had. But the final one is class, social class. We talk about it a lot, but the election of Donald Trump is really a kind of class rebellion against people like us, educated professionals who live in cities, who have, cosmopolitan views about a lot of things. And I think there's a whole part of America that is sick and tired of being told what to do by this, overeducated professional elite that Hillary Clinton in many ways perfectly represented. And that's why they're sticking with him.
Yes, and
so, the truth is globalism was a screw job. America bought into the East Coast elites. America opened its borders to everybody like nobody else. Then the minorities were brought in and then filled with racial hate. And then now they're saying kill white people everywhere. White people are the devil. And so some people are going that direction, but most people just realize this is a globalist takeover and that everything you push is pure poison and that you're not the elites. Sure, most of you are professional students because you've got degrees for an economy that doesn't exist. You're the chump class that wants to live in a 250 square foot coffin apartment. That's who you are. And record numbers of blacks and Hispanics voted for Trump. And you don't like that fact that your plantation's breaking away from you, so you're pushing it even harder. Who's up first here? Kathy, Antonio, Leanne, Rick. Let's go ahead and talk to Kathy in Arkansas. Kathy, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Kathy, it's good to talk to you. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Yes, I can. My name is actually Cassie.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk to you about foreign elections. And me and my friend on Twitter, his name is Sauce_Ison. And we would like to have permission to translate your InfoWars videos on YouTube into foreign languages so that hopefully foreigners could, when they're about to vote, they could have this InfoWars mindset so that when they're going to
well, ma'am, I've always said everybody can post our videos, everybody can translate them, everybody can take large sections of them. We've got to maintain our basic copyright where somebody can't take the whole show every day and post it and then monetize it, because then Google can actually say that they own our show and not us. But people can use large portions, large segments. People can translate the show. People can do all of that. People can make copies of my documentaries. All of it is out there for fair use. So please do that.
Yeah, because we're not looking to make any money off of it.
Man, that's fine. Absolutely. What I'm saying is I have the most open show in the world for people to copy, distribute it, you name it. So please translate any parts of the show you want. Do whatever you like. Absolutely. I've just run into it where we let other people post our show, and like 2 years later they go, your show is now ours. Take your sites down. We're like, no, I'm Alex Jones, and I'm going to continue to have my own website. I'm going to continue to own my own voice and my name, but everybody is allowed to use it out there. But I hold the final copyright. We'll be right back. Thank you, Kathy. Fourth hour with Paul Watson. More calls straight up. All right, who's up next here? We're going to go to Leanne, then Matthew and others. Leanne on One thing that confuses the listeners is the phone system we have does a psh noise right when you go to them, so they always think they're getting hung up on. I don't know why the Tello system does that. Every radio station I've worked in has had the same Tello system, and I'm not bashing them, but that's the problem with callers is you've got to say their name, then hit the button, or they hear a psh, that they don't know if they're there. Leanne in Pennsylvania, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
I'm calling because last week I was listening to you. I've been listening to you about a year now, and you've completely opened my eyes to so much. But last week I was listening to you, and I misheard you, and now it's the term I use. You were talking about the Civil War that they're trying to start in our nation, that they're working on really hard. But I thought you said Snivel War. And ever since then, that's like my new term. It's the Snivel War because they're such crybabies.
Well, they are sniveling around. They are sniveling around and whining and bitching. And, you know, they want to run the country and tell us all how to live, but they don't want to do any work.
That's right. That's right. And if God be for us, who can be against us?
Absolutely. What do you think about the Civil War, though? Can we stop it?
On our knees. Yes, we can. But yes, we can. Like I said, if God be for us, who can be against us? Every time they turn around, as long as we're praying, every time they turn around, it's just going to be, they're going to be frustrated.
Well, the pendulum is swinging back. The pendulum's swinging back in their own elite publications. They admit they're in big trouble. That is a fact. So everything else they do is a big confidence game. God bless you. You know, Hillary sure acted confident and had a little Madam President deal. Hillary Clinton's historic journey to the White House. Isn't that? Oh, I mean, mainstream news says she got elected. Must be true. Look at that. There's Bill Clinton next to Webster Hubbell's daughter, and he's back in the White House this time as the first man. It's just a role he really likes. Yeah, Hillary won. Newsweek said so. Newsweek also said Alex Jones wants violence. You can read about how they, you know, it's just amazing. Struggling against the strangest candidate in American history, Hillary showed her expertise. Yeah, it's how she beat him. Oh, boy, I want to do a whole review of this. She's an amazing lady. Oh, boy, look at her there. She did it again. Oh, the human. Hillary, the human. She's so real. She's so good. Oh, boy. So steal all that. There she is with some black kids who she calls super predators, and she wants all their tax money to be stolen as well, put them all in prison, and, of course, then she also stole the Haitian money. There's her girlfriend, Aberdeen, the Queen Makers, yeah. Oh, they even did a little shot where it looks like little crowns on her head, subliminal right there. In Hillary's inner circle, some came for Bill, but left with Hillary. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, baby. That's sexy. Jihadi, her mommy wants to cut your genitals off. She wears a hood over her head, so it's okay. For women, we're for women. We love jihadi women. Oh, we love the failure in Libya. We the failed state. We came, we saw the women all got enslaved. They're selling women into slavery right now, but it's liberal. Oh, we can read all about it. Here, let's look at some more. Oh, my gosh, oh, my gosh. In St. Louis, Donald Trump, who was later criticized for his strange habit of mirroring Clinton's movements, attempted to draw attention away from his mounting sexual misconduct scandal. Thought that was me, but it's not. By inventing women he claimed were victims of Bill Clinton's by inventing women that he settled sex cases with. He invented them. Look, Newsweek told you it was invented. Bill Clinton never did anything wrong. More calls coming up. Stay with me. All right, Paul Watson is hosting this hour. I'm going to take 3 calls and hand the baton over to my good friend, international patriot par excellence, Paul Watson. So patriotic, so anti-globalist, he's Americana, even though he's not from America. He's what Americana wishes it was. Seriously, though, 1776 was built in England, so that's how it all works. We always forget that. But getting serious here, why do they bring all these sniveling Brits over here, like Piers Morgan, like John Oliver, to then lecture down their noses at us about how we need to submit to them? And I want John Oliver to know we had some of the biggest sales ever Sunday and Monday. So I know his show does have some viewers. But why are all the liberal news shows dying? Why are they then acting like Colbert, Oliver, and others are news when they're talking head actors reading off a teleprompter that in some cases hundreds of writers, usually it's about 20, are involved in. These aren't real people. Those aren't real applauses in the background on John Oliver's show. At least some of his shows, they admit it's laugh tracks. So it's a taped deal. Took him weeks to make it. He's attacking me. And it's those type of shows that joined in on the whole hysteria about Eric Trump's haircut a few weeks ago, that he trimmed it short on the back because mullets have been out for a while. The most popular haircut in the world right now is kind of the fighter pilot military haircut. But again, Paul, I noticed you got one. You don't normally have that haircut. I think that's your best haircut. I told the folks cutting my hair multiple times, cut it shorter on the back. They won't do it. I don't want a mullet. Mullets are not in. I'm going to get my hair cut today. And I'm going to shave my head if I can't find somebody to trim the back. And it's not because I'm like Hitler. That's the haircut that I like. I've had the haircut before. I don't know what it is. I can't get anyone to cut it, Paul. How did you get your Hitler haircut?
Shave number 2 back and sides and leave a bit of length on top. If you tell them to do that, they'll probably know what to do.
So I'm going to use the shaver number 2 on the back, use a bit of length, which I don't have much hair on the top anyways.
Keep a bit of length on top, yeah. That was the root, which is, you know, they got like 400,000 followers on Twitter. They're quite big. They literally wrote an article saying because Eric Trump got what is the most popular haircut right now for men in the Western world, that means he's literally Hitler. They actually wrote an article about it, which again goes back to the Trump derangement syndrome that you've been talking about throughout the show. John Oliver, of course, it came out in the WikiLeaks that the Clintons really loved him. They tried to get him to their meetings. He wasn't available at the time. But again, as you said, with the comedy shows, that's the only foothold that the left has on YouTube. I mean, they've always had being better at comedy. Now the right is starting to overtake them.
Wait, I just realized something. One of our lead producer, Nico, has that haircut pretty often. Uh-oh. Nico may have some explaining to do.
90% of men aged 18 to 40 have it in the UK right now. So a lot of Nazis hanging around, Alex. A lot of Nazis.
What about the latest? They're not just saying Dunkirk is anti-black because there's no black people in it. It's a historical thing where the Nazis attacked the British troops who were white. But now they're saying there's no women in it, so it's celebrating the maleness. You wrote a story about that.
Yeah, that was an article out of Marie Claire, basically whining about the fact that it celebrates men. Basically triggered. I mean, triggered is an overused term these days because the left
they're so anti-white. You know, most of them are white. Seeing white guys triggers them.
Exactly. Again, it's part of this historical revisionism. Alex, the BBC had a cartoon series where it wasn't just Rome and Britain, which I talked about, but other people actually went back and looked. It was the signing of the Magna Carta, the Norman invasion, and all these other ancient periods of British history. They've inserted like Chinese people and black people into the front of the queue of the people signing the Magna Carta. That's how deep this historical revisionism has become. And it's like, if there were black people there, I don't care, more power to them. But no, you've deliberately inserted that for PC tokenism. This is bizarre. What the hell is going on? And now you see it with Dunkirk. We had the USA Today review, not enough people of color and minorities. Now we got this Marie Claire writer whining about how it celebrates maleness. Well, maleness should be celebrated. But is it 97% of combat deaths are men? 93% of workplace deaths are men. Men put their bodies on the line and were lectured all day about how pathetic and worthless we are by the dominant culture, by the left, by the media. That's why they get so triggered when a film like Dunkirk comes out, which, by the way, is not made to be a defense of men. It's basically just a straightforward action film, but it's become that ipso facto simply because these leftists became so triggered.
What they're triggered by is a historical film where some white people aren't all the villains. That's what there's a war against nonfiction because globalism is all about being delusional. And it's all about the high priest of globalism controlling reality. And if they don't sign off on something, it isn't supposed to air. But they're making themselves totally obsolete with all the race baiting. Where do you see this going?
Well, I mean, I mean, look at what happened yesterday with the taxpayer-funded Scottish National Portrait Gallery. They put out a performance art video where this black guy's spoken word kind of rapping about inbred spawn soon to die out, talking about white people, talking about the icons of Scottish history. And it's like, dude, 0.1% of the population in Scotland right now is black, right? 0.1%. We're talking 300, 400, 500 years ago. Of course, all the historical icons of Scotland are going to be white. They had 99.99%
But it's a seething anti-whiteness. It's a seething anti-whiteness being funded by the insane people that run Scotland to have some guy who fought to get to Scotland so he wouldn't be in an African hellhole bitching and complaining that everybody's shoving silver spoons in his mouth.
Alex, it's as stupid as getting outraged at South Africans, okay, 80% majority black country or more, for celebrating Nelson Mandela. That's the equivalent, but even more so, because the population's 99.9% white. Okay, that's demographics. That's called statistics and facts.
It'd be like if you had a documentary about it'd be like having a documentary about Nigeria and showing a white family.
Exactly. The BBC said a typical Roman family in Roman Britain was black, which is like going to Ethiopia and saying a blonde-haired, blue-eyed family is a typical Ethiopian family, because a few white people live there. No. The Independent came out and said that Muslim women in hijabs are a good depiction of Victorian Britain because a mosque was built in London 12 years before Queen Victoria died. No, that's not typical. So they're not only warping history, they're warping words, and it's insidious.
It is. I want to take 3 calls and get out of here because I want to hear what you have to say without me interjecting. But it really has reached insane asylum perspectives now and only tends to be increasing as we now realize the left literally isn't the left. They are just Western-hating, prosperity-hating, insane people bringing in systems that are diametrically opposed to classical liberalism. So the people claiming they're liberal are the ones that are deconstructing classical liberalism. And it turns out they're really social engineers that know full well what they're doing at the top, but their minions are in make-believe, believing they're part of the social elite who are involved in social engineering, when in truth they're destroying themselves.
No, exactly, Alex. And I mean, I considered calling them the alt-left, but when virtually the entire mainstream left now behaves like the alt-left, there are no true liberals left on the left, apart from a smattering, then what do you call them? They demonize us as alt-right, even though the true alt-right hates us. The alt-left is far more virulently extremist in every single case. You just got another teacher fired, a professor fired for encouraging people to shoot Trump, in his own words. This guy's teaching your children. So where's the extremist
threat?
Why
don't we call ourselves the real left, even though that's in the cosmology, that's not even proper. Classical liberal, like Thomas Jefferson. We are the real left. They're the fascist fake left. They're the radical Islam wedded group of just, we hate everything that's successful scum. Why don't we call ourselves the real left? Because compared to what they are, we are the real left.
Well, exactly. We're the real classical liberals. But again, the main hate speech threat overwhelmingly is coming from the alt-left. Yet what do we see with YouTube today, Alex? And I'm going to make a video about this. YouTube came out today and said that they're going to patrol YouTube for, quote, controversial videos. And no, they're not going to censor them, Alex. Don't worry. They're just going to hide them so nobody can see them. Oh, and by the way, you can't thumbs up a video and you can't comment on it either. But they're not censoring it. Don't worry. And they're teaming up. They're teaming up with the ADL. This is a group that 2 weeks ago listed prominent conservatives alongside actual neo-Nazis and white supremacists. That's the impartial, neutral group that YouTube has teamed up with today to patrol hate speech on YouTube. So you say, okay, what's the bar for hate speech? Surely that must be a high bar, given concerns about free speech. The ADL's bar for hate speech, Alex, is a cartoon frog. They literally said Pepe the Frog was hate speech. They're now patrolling YouTube to monitor hate speech. Gee, what could possibly go wrong, Alex?
And Tom Brokaw says, I am a, quote, unalloyed, which means total bona fide racist with no proof. They say they want to censor us. But notice the Orwellian term, the way they say, we're not going to censor, we're just going to hide. We're not going to kill you, we're just going to lock you up in the Tower of London and no one will ever see you, so who knows if you're really alive. They've already been doing this, not letting our YouTube videos show up for our 2 million subscribers just on one channel. Not letting people automatically unlike Trump's tweets. This is how they're already doing it desperately. That's why we have to stay on YouTube, stay on Facebook, and fight them even harder. Hand share videos, make videos about it when they censor. They want us just to give up, to accept the censorship, because then they're going to come for our sites themselves. They're already coming for our sponsors. They're already trying to shut us down. They're already trying to sue us. Folks, that's why you've got to support us now more than ever. You've got to spread the link to Infowars.com/show, where we pay to put out our own video feeds. Very expensive each month. That's why your financial support is so critical, because they've all announced in the last month massive sustained censorship, fake community guideline strikes to shut down our main channel. We're going to make a huge deal about it when it happens. I'm talking to lawyers looking to finally have to sue for discrimination, racketeering, selective enforcement, and other things over the groups that do it. I'm not happy about it, but it's got to be done, because these organizations are sworn to trying to shut this country down. If they can shut us up, next is going to be the president, who, again, first they only put negative stuff in his Twitter feed. Now they're not letting you share his tweets. This is to the president of the United States, who has the power under all sorts of federal powers, executive powers, to go after Twitter and Google for the monopolistic activities, for the anti-free speech, for the racketeering they're engaged in over our civil rights and our speech. Classical Chinese-style net censorship policies that we have to address. Don't worry, we're not going to ban your hate videos. We're just going to not let anybody see them, memory hole them, or share them, essentially deleting them. What a joke, Paul.
Oh, Alex, they literally delete subscribers off my channel every time I upload a video. And there are people even on the left. There's a guy called The Amazing Atheist, who's by no means an alt-right figure, but he's controversial. God forbid he's got an authentic opinion about things. Every time he uploads a video, he loses like 1,000 subscribers, because they're shifting content. Anything that's deemed controversial, people get unsubscribed whenever that channel uploads a video.
Exactly. The right wing's doing it as well, because they don't like the atheists. They're using the bots to go complain. People should not do that. I don't go complain on John Oliver trying to get him shut down. It's insane. Have you noticed the one video, too, that has like 20-something million views? It got like 3 million on YouTube. They backed it back to 1 million. They put a glitch in it to make the audio off, which is impossible unless you've done it at YouTube level, because the audio and video is laid together in the file. They glitched out the Bon Iver song because it was too powerful, and they realized it was making people love me. So they went and glitched it to sabotage it.
No, they've completely changed the algorithms, Alex, in the past few months, because they completely freaked out after the election, basically. The problem they've got is we're still growing so exponentially that their censorship remains kind of hidden, because we're still able to override it to a certain extent. But, I mean, for example, Salon.com wrote an article about me, a hit piece back a couple of months ago. Got virtually no readers. Most of the comments on it were people agreeing with me. Got no readers. But now every time you type my name and Infowars, because I type it into Google to try and find my own past articles, so whenever it's my name and Infowars into a Google search, the top article every single time is this Salon.com.
Which they admit in WikiLeaks, Soros wanted this force feeding of their platforms, which, again, no one wants to read, because the humans, like you said, we'll have an article with 5,000, 10,000 comments, 1 million reads. A Salon article we'll go look at, according to Google Analytics, may have 20,000 readers, but it's number one. Google violated its own algorithm and screwed up its own system to force feed this, and we even have the internal Google documents where they did it, Paul.
No, exactly. And it's kind of a badge of honor, though, to be so hated by Salon.com, a platform, a news outlet that literally gave a platform to a pedophile, and not one, but several occasions.
To drool over 5-year-old girls. To drool over 5-year-old girls.
Literally made a video drooling over how he masturbated over a 5-year-old girl. Salon.com produced dreamy sensual footage to illustrate that. Yeah, that's a badge of honor to be attacked by those kind of people.
Look at that guy. Just look at that guy. He doesn't, God, he needs to cut that mullet off.
Vice.com still gives him a platform, Alex. They haven't deleted their glowing articles about Todd Nickerson, this guy who's literally a self-admitted pedophile. Badge of honor to be attacked by those people.
Do they not understand that their attempt to, I mean, because simultaneously they're lying about me everywhere, they're lying about you, while trying to restrict what we actually say so that people only see the straw man. Do they not get that it made us rock star status? I mean, I get mobbed everywhere I go. I had the native Hawaiians running up, buying me dinner everywhere. I had hundreds of people positive to every negative, and the few negatives would walk by and go, "You don't have your kids anymore." Or they'd walk by and say, "Oh, I love, you know, John Oliver, like that's hurting me that he's attacking me." And one time the guy walked by and said, "Oh, while I'm at a table, while I'm walking back from the bathroom to the table, oh, sorry, you know, where are your kids?" And I looked at the guy and I laughed. And I went and sat down and he looked at me and I was there with 3 of my 4 children. The baby stayed here in Austin with my wife. I took my kids from a previous wife, you know, to Hawaii, a working vacation, took some of the crew. But I mean, I'm with my kids and they're laughing at me saying, "You lost your kids." It's the craziest thing, Paul. They're like in the simulated reality or something.
No, they think they can still manage and dictate reality and create this impression that we're just so hated. Like you said, the vast majority of people who come up to you, it's all positive. Like, I've been out with Nigel Farage, and the vast majority of people absolutely love him. They say, "You saved this country, I want to shake your hand." Then you get one person who's already like 20 feet down the street before they yell something with a lame protest. And you're like, "What the hell was that?" And they've already gone. They've
exactly. Already somebody goes, "Screw you, Russian!" And, and you'll start walking, and they'll run. "Oh, no, I don't want to talk to you. We got it on video." I'm like, "Get on over here. You know, come on, talk to me like you're a person."
Get in their face with the camera, and they suddenly become a little bit shy, don't they? But again, the reaction's overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, we live in a polarized time. There's going to be some negative aspects to it. But again, they try to create this impression that we're so demonized and hated when they're literally giving platforms to pedophiles. They're the ones who are hated. Look at YouTube, Alex. The right, conservative libertarians, whoever, you know, the real woke people, the red pill people, completely taken over YouTube. That's why they're now freaking
That's right.
out.
And every week, an Alex Jones video is #1, whether it's ours or somebody else. We have the most views of anybody John Oliver's ever had on. We have the most views Joe Rogan's ever had, and of course he's a good guy. We have the most views by like 20-1 that Super Deluxe, owned by Time Warner's, ever had. They talk about me because for whatever reason they know it gets the ratings they crave, Paul. Same thing with you. Why is that?
Well, I mean, they're selfish fundamentally, so they need us to generate content because they're such dimwits. They've got nothing else. They can't actually research. They're not talented. Like, they don't spend 10 hours editing a YouTube video because they don't have the skills. They can just blather on a blog. But yeah, it's about embracing the meme. The left has always had the upper hand in terms of comedy, Alex, but now the right has become so good at
That's because they've controlled the combines. They've controlled the means of distribution. Now they're dying. Now left comedy is in total panic because they're the opposite of comics. They want to control all of the speech.
Because they can't meme. They haven't embraced the meme. They don't know how to be funny with memes, and that's what comedy is right now online. So that's why they're pathetic. I mean, they still get a lot of views on the late night comedy videos on YouTube, but apart from that, politically, YouTube has been completely taken over. I mean, it's almost embarrassing at this point. Twitter's a little bit different, but eventually it'll go the same way. Obviously, that's a very much smaller platform, so which is why you see the least censorship really on Twitter, although people have been banned for calling JK.
Well, it's more than that. They can have bots operating because it's less video. It's harder for bots to create fake content on YouTube, so they have a lot of problems. With Twitter, you've got a fake community, just like Facebook, where the left, admittedly, is controlled by fake bots they believe are people, and that's their peer pressure culture.
Yeah, which is now YouTube. They're not only teaming up with the ADL, and I'm going to get into this on the show later on, Alex. They've teamed up with this hate speech police, basically a thought policing group that works with the Swedish government, the same Swedish government that even put PewDiePie on a hate list and blocked him on Twitter. So these are the neutral, impartial arbiters of what constitutes hate speech on YouTube that they're now going to patrol, like Snopes on Facebook, Alex, allegedly embezzling all this money to pay for hookers. Oh, but they're credible, they're neutral, and they can tell us what's an urban myth or not. Absolutely incredible. It's all collapsing, and they're panicking.
You're absolutely right. That is Paul Joseph Watson taking over right now. I apologize to Rick and Matthew. Both of you get a free T-shirt of your choice right now. Give us your name and number. Paul Watson coming up. Oh, and free shipping ends tomorrow. And we got big deals. Paul, please plug. We need to fund the operation. I forgot to tell you that. I'm skipping breaks. I'm out of control.
We're live. It's the 4th hour of the Alex Jones Show. Before I get back into the news, you've seen once again we're under vicious attack. Not a day goes by without that. This time through John Oliver, who was triggered by the fact that we sell products. Oh my God, the horror, the shame. Maybe John Oliver would be happier if we just took money from Gulf state dictatorships that kill protesters, like CNN. You're going to be happy if we do that, John Oliver, because that's what they did in the case of Bahrain. Literally produced propaganda puff pieces for the dictatorship of Bahrain, which kills protesters on the street for money. I guess that's credible. I guess that's honourable, is it, John Oliver? But no, we're bad for selling these products. As Alex said, because of his promotion, which we thank him very much for, we're selling more products, and we're going to do that right now. Last week of July specials, still available. Massive discounts at InfoWarsStore.com. We have Silver Bullet for 66% off retail at just $9.95. Super Female Vitalities, 57% off retail, $29.95. Strawberry Caveman, you can get that for $44.96, which is a 25% discount. Go and read the 5-star independent verified reviews at InfoWarsStore.com, how these products have benefited other people and why you should get them today to support this network as we are under continuous assault from the likes of John Oliver, which has ironically only helped us. So we've got massive discounts. That special will end. It's the last week. We've continued it, but it's going to end very shortly. You can get the Prostagard at $19.95. That's a 33% off discount. Knockout, the Sleep Aid, $14.95. That's a whopping 50% off. Conservatism is the new counterculture mugs. High quality coffee mugs, huge chunky mugs with the slogan that triggers every libtard on Twitter. Conservatism is the new counterculture. They're available for 33% off either one. Also, DNA Force, you can get 20% off, and that's selling out fast. All these specials are available right now at InfoWarsStore.com. You can still get the free shipping store-wide on every single item at InfoWarsStore.com. Save a ton of money that way. We've also got the new True Whey Protein for 25% off retail. That's the introductory price at InfoWarsLife.com. It is the ultimate protein pack. You're going to need this as an addition to your diet anyway if you want to stay lean and relatively muscular, if you combine it with the sensible weight resistance program. And that is the new True Whey Protein, 25% off retail at InfoWarsLife.com. Please support us by getting the products today, InfoWarsLife.com. Now, I mentioned while I was on with Alex, YouTube today has announced new censorship measures, and people say, oh, you're always bitching about YouTube and Twitter and Facebook censoring you. Yes, we have to bitch about it several times a month simply to stay one step ahead of it. If we said absolutely nothing, just rolled over and took it, then things would be very different today. We're using their platforms against them. We're going to continue to do that with no shame. But today, YouTube has announced an intensification of their censorship efforts. Of course, we had the adpocalypse a few months ago, where they started demonetizing non-family friendly content, which of course included basically all controversial political content. Now we have this article out of Gizmodo. YouTube has a new naughty corner for controversial religious and supremacist videos. Today, YouTube clarified how it plans to handle videos that don't violate any of its policies. Oh, really? So you can conform with all their policies, but they're going to censor you anyway because they don't like what you're saying. oh, but it's not censorship. They're just going to hide your videos and not allow anyone to like or comment on them, not allow anyone to recommend them. But it's not censorship. The news comes as a status report on the promises made by Google General Counsel Kent Walker in a June Financial Times op-ed, which announced YouTube was taking several steps to inhibit extremist videos. And of course, that is what it's always sold on. We're going to stop ISIS videos. Bunkum, absolute crap. They always use this to censor political people. In fact, Jordan B. Peterson, who by no means is vulgar or profane, he's a Christian, just had his YouTube account temporarily suspended. He was locked out of it, no explanation whatsoever. That was probably another example of leftists mass flagging his channel. We have a similar situation on Facebook. This is what's happening. But now they're saying that the ADL, they're going to team up with the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, to patrol hate speech on YouTube. Which, you know, that might be comforting if you didn't know a damn thing about who the ADL is. So the bar for hate speech, given that this is a key, integral, fundamental free speech issue, that bar for hate speech has got to be pretty high, hasn't it? You've got to have an impartial, neutral organization that's going to not come at it from any kind of partisan political persuasion for this policy to work and for it to apply to what it should apply to, which is basically ISIS propaganda videos and not much else. Okay, so what's the ADL's bar for what constitutes hate speech? It must be pretty high, right, for YouTube to team up with this neutral, impartial organization. What's the ADL's bar for hate speech? Oh, the ADL thinks a cartoon frog is hate speech. Yeah, that's their bar for hate speech. They literally think depictions of a cartoon frog are hate speech. So if that features in your YouTube video, well, you're going to be censored. Oh, but you're not going to be censored. We're just going to not let anyone watch your video. And that's not censoring you. That's literally what they say in this press release. Now, the ADL also, a couple of weeks ago, listed a bunch of prominent conservatives, people like Mike Cernovich, people like Lucian Wintrich, who is the grandson of a survivor of Nazi occupation, by the way. They put them on a hate list alongside actual neo-Nazis and white supremacists. And basically said, this is the enemy, a red flag to a bull, given that leftist, violent, unhinged extremists have acted out on propaganda from these kind of organizations before. Remember the Family Research Council shooting. So they're literally putting conservatives on a hate list with actual neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Oh, but this is the impartial, neutral organization that will be patrolling YouTube for hate speech. Again, this is the organization, the ADL, whose entire existence, whose millions in funding every single year is wholly dependent on fanning hysteria about hate crime. So what kind of motivation do you think they've got teaming up with YouTube to patrol hate speech on that video platform? Well, of course they're going to identify anything that they don't like politically as hate speech. They already do on their own website. So they're going to do exactly the same on YouTube. It's similar to how Twitter teamed up, created this Trust and Safety Council, remember that one a couple of years ago, to patrol abuse and harassment on Twitter. You actually looked at the members of this Trust and Safety Council. It was literally feminist groups who said that saying you suck and you're a liar is abuse and harassment. That's their definition of abuse and harassment. Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. Those are the kind of groups who Twitter teamed up with to patrol abuse and harassment, the people who think disagreeing with them is harassment. Now the same thing has happened with YouTube. They've teamed up with a group that literally thinks a cartoon frog, that literally thinks having conservative opinions is hate speech. Oh, gee, what could possibly go wrong there? But it's the way they present it, like this is a trusted, credible group. Absolutely amazing. Similar to Salon.com. Of course, we had Facebook last year, where it was revealed that they were curating their trending topics list to downplay, to censor conservative topics of conversation, to boost artificially Black Lives Matter, even though organically it shouldn't have appeared at the top of their trending list. They had individuals working for Facebook go in and artificially put that at the top of the list to push their political agenda. And they always come out after and say, oh, we're completely non-partisan. BS. Every single time it's BS. Don't trust them. So now you've got Snopes.com. Of course, last year coming out, Facebook announced that they would team up with Snopes.com to fact-check fake news posted on Facebook. And in fact, they had an advisory that popped up alongside some Facebook posts which said, disputed by multiple independent fact-checkers. Before you share this content, you might want to know that the fact-checking sites Associated Press and Snopes.com disputed its accuracy. Because Snopes.com is really impartial and independent, isn't it? They don't literally make up quotes like they did when I wrote an article. I'll tell you about Snopes.com. Okay, so I wrote an article. This is how independent they are. This is how much credibility they have when it comes to fact-checking and debunking urban myths. So I wrote an article last year, 1 month before the election, based on the Podesta WikiLeaks emails, entitled Clinton Campaign Email Outlines Effort to Produce an Unaware and Compliant Citizenry. And that was a direct quote from a WikiLeaks email sent to John Podesta by former Clinton administration official Bill Ivey on March 13, 2016. So he literally said, that is a quote, that they have an effort, this is the quote, to produce an unaware and compliant citizenry. That was the quote. I wrote an article about it. It was a quote, direct quote from the article. Snopes.com took this article and said, no, this is fake news. This is an urban myth. He didn't say this because he didn't mean to say it. And they actually got in contact with this guy, and he gave them an alternative quote of what he meant to say in the original email to John Podesta. So they literally invented a new quote of what he meant to say to try and go back and change the record retroactively. This email in which he gave a direct quote saying they want to produce an unaware and compliant citizenry. So the Snopes.com basically said, oh no, he didn't mean that, even though it's a direct quote. Here's a new quote that we've just made up out of thin air with the approval of this guy, and now you're debunked. That's literally what they did, making up quotes, and they say I'm debunked when I quoted the original email. Oh, and by the way, here's an article out of the Daily Mail about Snopes.com, the independent, impartial, neutral fact-checking website. Fact-checking website Snopes on verge of collapse after founder is accused of fraud, lies, and putting prostitutes and his honeymoon on expenses. And it hasn't told its readers those facts. Fact-checking website Snopes is on the verge of financial collapse after its owner was accused of embezzling company funds to pay for his contentious divorce battle and lavish overseas trips with his new wife. Dumped his fat, frumpy previous wife, a former Las Vegas escort and porn actress. The company's financial woes have gotten so bad that Snopes owner David Mickelson started a crowdfunding website pleading for donations this week, which raised over $500,000 from generous readers in its first day. I'm sure they didn't have any foundation backing for that either. But DailyMail.com can disclose significant facts which are entirely missing from the fact-checking website's version of events, including the fraud allegations against Mickelson. And then the article goes through it. So this is the credible, sober, impartial, neutral organization, literally run by far-left cranks who blow all the money on hookers and holidays, but you can trust them. They don't have any partisan agenda, no. You can trust them. That's who Facebook's working with. Twitter is working with feminists who think that saying you suck, you're a liar is abuse and harassment. And YouTube has finally cracked down on the horror of people having alternative political opinions, because God forbid we would have diversity of thought, right? Like, that's not the very thing that made YouTube great in the first place, is it? No, we need to get the ADL in there who literally think a cartoon frog is hate speech to patrol hate speech. What could possibly go wrong? So, I mean, I'm about to hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube, probably already have at this point. I don't envisage my channel being around for that much longer if this is actually implemented by YouTube, by the ADL. Oh, and by the way, the other organizations that they're working with to patrol hate speech on YouTube, one of which is the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. Now, if you look that group up, it runs a far-right extremism program, managing a European Commission-funded initiative. That's the European Commission, the unelected executive body of the European Union, because they're neutral, they're non-partisan as well, aren't they? And they work with the Swedish government. The same Swedish government that literally puts people on hate lists, on block lists on Twitter if they criticize Sweden's migrant policy. And they're non-partisan as well. You can trust those guys to patrol hate speech on YouTube. I mean, it's not like they literally put PewDiePie, a guy who makes videos about himself playing video games primarily, on that same hate speech list, is it? Oh yeah, they actually did. But they're neutral, they're sober, they're non-partisan. You can trust them to not censor content on YouTube, because remember, they're not censoring you, they're just hiding your videos, not allowing them to be recommended, not allowing anyone to comment on them, not allowing anyone to give them a thumbs up, but they're not censoring you. Okay? Job done. So I'm going to make a video about this, try and draw some attention to it, because Twitter, when they tried to pull this crap, and to some extent Facebook too, kind of backed away from it when they felt the pressure. So we're going to put some pressure on YouTube and the ADL to try and reverse this. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Twitter is now banning people, or has been banning people over the past few days, for calling J.K. Rowling a liar. I tweeted one of them. Since then, there are several other people who have come out and said, you know, they provided the screenshots. They got a week suspension on Twitter for calling J.K. Rowling a liar. This is the state of free speech on the internet right now. Twitter hasn't even verified, given how many losers on Twitter with 200 followers are given verified accounts, which elevates their status in the Twitter echo chamber, they still haven't verified Julian Assange, probably one of the most famous people in politics today, a person who is, you know, there are numerous people who claim to be him on Twitter. That's the primary reason for giving people verified accounts, is to stop imitations. But no, Julian Assange does not get a verified account because they don't like his politics because of the Podesta emails. We all know this, but it's the fact that every single time they deny that there's any kind of partisan bias. There is. We know there is. We see it on a continual basis, and we're going to fight back against it, because we have to continually bitch about this to go out there on the battlefield of ideas and fight our corner. The solution is not to just make a new YouTube that's just an echo chamber for conservatives or the right. No, we need to be out there on the battlefield, red-pilling the next generation, so we need to get on these platforms to do it. Like I said, we've done it to a great extent. That's why they're freaking out, that's why they're panicking, and that's why they're coming down with this new fist of authoritarianism and censorship. We'll be back on the Alex Jones Show Live final segment. Don't go away. We're live. It is final segment of the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. Again, please support us by getting the products. InfoWarsStore.com. We've got the True Whey Protein for 25% off. We have a continuation of the July specials with massive discounts on all your favorite products. Please check out the reviews. Please check out InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. Again, John Oliver is upset at InfoWars for selling products. Maybe he would be happier if we just took money from dictatorships that kill protesters, that mow them down on the streets. Maybe that would make him happier. But we're not going to do that. We're going to continue selling these great products. If you've given outstanding independent certified reviews for on InfoWarsStore.com, massive discounts, last week of July specials, InfoWarsLife.com, free shipping store-wide. Please take advantage of that today, InfoWarsStore.com. Now, there's an article up on InfoWars.com, written by yours truly. Just over 1% of migrants arriving in Italy are Syrian refugees. Now, these figures are from Eurostat, the independent political body that feeds information to the EU, not some crazy right-wing outfit. New figures show that just 1.4% of migrants arriving in Italy are Syrian refugees, confirming the fact that the overwhelming majority of people flooding into Europe are economic migrants from countries not at war. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? You know that's true. The mainstream media will never talk about it. The delusion that they inflict on the population that these are genuine refugees fleeing war-torn countries has never ceased. There's never been any clarification. But these numbers, which again were provided by Eurostat, underscore how the true nature of the migrant crisis is being completely misrepresented by the press, left-wing groups and politicians. So they actually broke down the numbers and they found that 1.4% of asylum seekers who arrived in Italy for the first 5 months of this year were from Syria. That's just 845 Syrians applying for asylum out of 58,255 arrivals in Italy alone. So you say, okay, there must be a lot of refugees from Libya. That was a war-torn country, wasn't it, after we toppled Gaddafi and armed jihadists? Hillary Clinton cackling about it. Wonderful policy. So a lot of those refugees must be Libyan, right? No. 0.36% of the refugees are Libyan, despite the fact they're all coming from Libya. Why is that? Because all the economic migrants from other North African countries flood into Libya. They get on a dinghy.